CD4.
Chapter 43. I check my watch, see I have 2 hours to make my phone call to the kidnappers of my beloveds, and I'm only an hour away from Three Rivers, Texas. That gives me 60 minutes to scope out the address, do a brief surveillance, and then get the job done, freeing a prisoner from that house and taking him to the criminal who took my Tom and my Denise. I allow myself a brief moment of satisfaction. The drive down from Alabama through Mississippi, Louisiana, and now Texas has been grueling. I was able to stop and sleep for a while, but there's not much on the interstate to break up the monotony, but flat farmland, swampland, and industrial landscapes clouding up the horizon. Somewhere along the way, I also stopped off at a huge Walmart supercenter to steal and switch out license plates. Not much of a camouflage, but it's the best I can do. Twice, road construction has slowed me down, but I've been able to make up the time without getting the attention of any law enforcement. Now I've passed through the high-rise obscenity that is Houston, and I'm on U.S. Highway 59, heading southwest through heavy rain. Earlier, I spotted the anvil shapes of heavy thunderstorm clouds racing along the flat fields, and the torrential rain has been pacing me for the last 20 minutes. The flashes of lightning in the near black clouds reminding me of those long dark nights at FOB Healy in Afghanistan, seeing tracer rounds emerge from the nearby rocks and ravines, as the Taliban continued their daily quest to eject the newest invaders from their homeland. As I hear the booming thunder, I try to suppress the memories of the rocket and mortar attacks, the explosive rounds dropping in and exploding while I huddled in the bomb shelter with the other non-combatants. The traffic has been light in the past hour or so, but now it starts to thicken. I sit up and try to stretch my aching back. Up ahead, more taillights, flickering red. I don't like it. I see my speed start dropping, from 70 miles per hour to 60 to 50 and now in the 40s, and I really don't like it. What the hell is going on? I try to peer to the side and just see the traffic slowing down even more. The taillights flickering red and then staying steady red. The Wrangler's speed continues to drop. 32, 29, 20, 10, 3. Full stop. Damn it. Horns around me blare, and I just squeeze the steering wheel hard, knowing honking my horn won't do a damn thing. But I honk anyway. I wait. All right. Maybe a traffic accident, or a jackknife truck, or a sinkhole in the road. Something. Check my watch. 5 minutes have passed. That means I'm already 5 miles behind. We stay stock still. Then the Subaru station wagon ahead of me, with a "Don't Mess with Texas" bumper sticker, moves ahead a few feet and stops. More waiting. I lower the driver's side window, stick my head out, get drenched. All I see ahead of me are the line of cars and the red taillights. Another 5 minutes slip by. Another 5 miles lost. I roll up the window, lean over to the passenger seat, take out my atlas and a road map of this part of Texas that I got from a service station an hour ago. There's got to be another way out of here. With my 4-wheel drive, I could scoot across the grass median, get on the highway heading northeast, find a state road that will at least get me headed in the right direction. Somebody hammers at my window. I yelp in surprise, drop the maps, thrust my hand into my open leather bag, and grab my revolver. Chapter 44. A Hispanic male, thin mustache, black hair flattened down by the rain, eyes wide with fear or terror, wearing a soaked checked shirt and blue jeans, slams both hands again on my window. "Por favor," he yells. "Please, mi familia! My family, they're drowning!" I roll down the window, keeping the other hand with the revolver hidden. "What?" He points down at the length of stalled cars. "Mi familia! They are in my car! Por favor! Help me rescue them! Your Jeep, please!" My first thought is brutally honest and real. Sucks to be you, I immediately think, because I need to get moving to rescue my Tom and Denise. A few hours ago, I almost murdered an innocent Tennessee police officer up close and personal. It wouldn't take much to abandon this terrified father and husband. Then, just as quickly, I'm ashamed of what just went through my mind, and a calmer voice makes an appearance. Help this guy out right now. You can get the traffic moving. It'll be faster than trying to puzzle out the maps to find an alternate route. I shout, "Get in." And I toss the maps in the back along with my revolver, now in my leather bag. He runs past the front of my Wrangler, gets into the passenger side, soaking everything, and he says, "Hurry, rapido, please." I put the Jeep into reverse, slam it into first, start driving down the side of the road, half of the Wrangler on the pavement, the other half on the muddy median. Up ahead, 2 pickup trucks have pulled over and I roll up, and there are a couple of men there, in cowboy hats and long yellow rain slickers, and they wave me on past torn-up grass and dirt where it looks like a vehicle has skidded off the highway. As I slow down, my passenger jumps out, and I put the Jeep into park, step out. The rain's heavier. I take in the scene in one long, hard glance. To the right is a plain concrete bridge, 2 lanes spanning what was probably a trickling stream, but not today. It's a roaring, racing river, with torrents and whitecaps and sprays of spume, and down the muddy grass embankment there are a line of people, holding hands, trying to get to an overturned red Chevrolet in the rapids. The would-be rescuers are not going to make it. The water's moving too fast, too hard. It will knock all of them off their feet. I get back into my Jeep, make a muddy U-turn, and back my way down the embankment, looking at the rear-view mirror and side mirror, trying to gauge where I am. I brake hard, get out, and go to the taillight, slam it open. Nestled under an old blanket, a fire extinguisher, and a toolbox is a length of chain. I always keep a chain in my Jeep for those few times each winter when an inch of snow causes Virginia to collapse in chaos, with cars and trucks off the freeway. I hook the chain onto the trailer hitch, and the Hispanic man, eager to help, grabs the other end of the chain, goes down to the overturned car, fastens it to the rear axle. He waves at me. "Rapido! Please!" I get back into the Wrangler, shift it into low, and then look at the side view mirror, get a glimpse of the chain, and see it move up and get taut. Now. I hit the accelerator. The wheels churn and spin. I make a few feet of progress. I look up again and the Chevrolet is moving. It's moving. Damn. The current has grabbed the Chevy and is taking it downstream, and me along with it. The Wrangler stumbles back. I shift again, pumping the accelerator, and I don't think I'm going to make it. In my mind's eye, I can see it all. The Chevy dragging me in, the fastened chain linking my Wrangler. No way to get out, nothing to do but open the door right now and dive out onto the soggy embankment. Damn it! I see a quick movement. Men and women are in the water, holding on to the floating Chevy, pushing it to shore. And I hit the accelerator again. And now I'm going. I drag the overturned vehicle a few meters and stop. The Chevrolet is out of the water. The driver's side door flops open. Water streams from it. The Hispanic father has a hammer in his hand, and he's joined by a bulky woman in dungarees with a crowbar, and both of them attack the windows. I get out and slop through the mud, and by the time I get to the car, a young woman, a little girl, and a little boy have been dragged out. They're coughing. They're choking. But they're alive. I stop in knee-deep water, breathing hard as the sirens start wailing in the distance. A local fire department and its ambulance arrive, along with a number of volunteers with flashing red lights in their vehicles' grills. Then a Texas state trooper arrives, and names are taken and photographs and statements, and the Hispanic father, named Carlos, keeps on hugging me, and all the while I'm thinking, I've got to go, but I can't race away because that will raise too many questions. The rain finally lets up as I get away from the crowd of rescuers, onlookers, EMS, and law enforcement, and with wet and muddy boots, I get back into the Wrangler. The thought comes to me like a sweet taste of wine that I've rescued a family. I check my watch. I have 30 minutes to call the kidnapper with the word that I've fulfilled his demands. And I'm an hour away from Three Rivers. I've saved this family and killed my own.
Chapter 45. With his trusted associate Casper Correri at his side, Pelayo Aboud unlocks the basement door and strolls in to check on his guests. Coming in behind Casper is the woman doctor from Afghanistan, named Bahara. Even in this heat, the woman insists on wearing a loose black robe nearly covering her plump body, and a distant human part of Pelayo admires such piousness. The inside of the room stinks, from fear, burnt tissue, and a foul scent from the area of the chemical toilet. The little girl cries out as they come in, and the poor man backpedals his way across the bed, until his back is up against the cement wall, his eyes wide, holding up his injured arm in an awkward position. "Please," Pelayo says, "let the doctor examine you." Tom's face is red, and his eyes are swollen from all the weeping and sobbing. And even though Pelayo can sense the fear in the broken man, Tom does as he's told, and gingerly presents the burnt arm to the doctor. She sits across from Tom on the girl's bed, whispers to the girl, and little Denise turns her head and looks to the wall. Tom groans a couple of times as the doctor goes through her large black valise and begins to work on Tom's arm. It looks like a raw, bloody business, and Pelayo, who fondly recalls killing a school bully back in Veracruz by shoving a mechanical pencil in the teen boy's right ear, said pencil having been gifted to him on his 12th birthday by his grandfather, doesn't flinch. Eventually, a gauze bandage is loosely wrapped around the burnt arm, and Bahara gets up, rearranging her black robe. She steps away and whispers to Pelayo, This is not what I agreed to do. This is evil work." Pelayo shrugs. "Then you may leave, if you wish." The Afghan doctor's eyes widen. "For real?" "Certainly," Pelayo says. "But you cannot fly or drive, so if you can determine a way of walking back to your cursed country, go. If not, stay quiet, woman, and do your job." Tom Cornwall sees the doctor scurry out, and he can feel the fear and terror spread inside of him, like a splotch of oil slowly spreading across a blank pavement. With the woman in the room, there was a bit of reassurance that nothing bad would happen to him and Denise. But now, it's his kidnapper and the other well-dressed man who is his deputy. Pelayo Aboud sighs, sniffs, says something in Spanish to the other man, and he leaves as well. Now he is alone with a man who had earlier blowtorched his arm. "My apologies," Pelayo says. Tom grits his teeth. "For what? Burning my arm?" The man grins. "Of course not." He gestures to where the chemical toilet is hidden in the small cell. "It appears your sanitary facilities are failing. I will ensure it is taken care of very shortly." Tom looks at his bandaged left arm. The nice woman doctor, still not saying a word to him, had cleaned the large broken blister, applied some sort of ointment, and gently wrapped it with clean white gauze. She left him with a pack of painkillers. May I ask you a question?" Pelayo nods. "Go ahead." He pauses, tries to gather his thoughts. In his newspaper career, he thinks he has interviewed a number of evil men, from a weapons smuggler in the Philippines to a proud blood diamond trader in Liberia. But compared to this quiet, well-dressed man, with the cold gray eyes in front of him, they were Boy Scouts. The man's assistant comes back into the room, whispers into Pelayo's ear, and then he says, "Bueno," and returns to looking at Tom. Tom finally says, "You. Who are you?" Pelayo says, "Dear me, I was expecting a better question. You know who I am. I know you spend enough time doing research about me and my career." Pelayo gets off the bed, and Tom surprises himself by saying, "No, wait, don't go. I meant, who are you beyond that? Beyond what I found out. What's going on here?" His kidnapper chuckles. "I thought it would have been apparent, considering what you North Americanos think any time you hear a Mexican accent. But I've heard Spanish, all right. But the men who grabbed my daughter and me, I think they spoke Farsi, and I've heard Pashto as well. What are you doing? Pelayo pauses. Now I'm impressed. That's an adult question. I will spare some of my time to give you the answer. He sits back on the bed. Tom glances at Denise. She is desperately holding her Tigger in one arm and is trying to ignore the adult world so scarily nearby by working on a coloring book with her free hand. Pelayo sits down. But please, Tom Cornwall, look at the facts. You're a dinosaur working for an industry and in a world that's already dead, but you don't know it. You still believe in that old-fashioned thought of a free press operating in a world with set rules and boundaries. That world is gone. National interest is gone. What remains are the conglomerates, the corporations, the cartels, the 3 C's, as it would be. There is no such thing left as governments. It's a mere shadow play and puppets, done so well that most people still believe those illusions. But what? Tom forces the word out. You're evil. Pelayo laughs. Compared to what? If one of my associates machine guns down a competitor and 6 of his workers at a cafe in Mexico City, that's a national disgrace. A world story with large headlines about the barbarians operating beyond the fringes of the law. But when an oil company's action incinerates 100 or so Nigerians in the course of a day's work, well, that small story is buried somewhere deep inside your newspapers. Am I right? The man's assistant stands there. Pelayo sits comfortably on the bed. It's so quiet, Tom hears the scritch-scritch of his daughter's coloring in her book. He moves his left arm some, and the pain still hits him behind his eyes. You may be correct, he says, but it's not right. Pelayo smiles, leans over, gives him a gentle slap on the knee. For a while there was a world where you and your kind struggled to report the truth. That's now gone. Every newspaper and television network is now handcuffed to their ideology, their way of looking at the world. Governments once pretended they worked for the poor common man. That's gone as well. Your elected representatives in this so-called democracy won't pass legislation because their paymaster lobbyists tell them what to do. Pelayo stands up, shakes his head, brushes each hand as if there was some sort of dust or contaminant there. In some ways, I admire you, Tom Cornwall, still bravely struggling to stay alive and pertinent in this world. But in reality, you're playing in the shadows, thinking it's real. None of it's real. Tom says, someday you and your kind will be stopped. Not today, not ever, Pelayo says, now glancing at his watch. And you best pray that your wife has not been stopped. She has 11 minutes to contact me. Tom looks to his daughter and asks the question. What happens at the 12-minute mark? Pelayo says softly and with great courtesy, please, Tom, not in front of the little girl.
Chapter 46. At some point just outside of Three Rivers, Texas, the deadline passes. But my mission still goes on. The destination town is flat, with a 2-lane state road passing through. And as I go by the Y intersection of Route 72, King David Drive, and Route 281, North Harborth Avenue, there's just a McDonald's restaurant with flapping, colorful banners saying, just opened, please stop by. The homes are all single-story, in tidy, square yards with scraggly brown and green lawns. There's not much here, but there's enough. And I slowly go down what appears to be the main road, North Harborth Avenue. There are a couple of service stations, a dollar store, and little stores here and there set back from the road. This is what my supposed betters call flyover country, even though the people in that part of the country pump the oil, grow the food, and mine the ore. My supposed betters should hope they never band together and go on strike. I don't have time, and I don't have what I need, an idea of where Linden Street is located. I also don't have much money, which I discovered about 30 minutes ago when I was making a fast refueling in the previous town called Kennedy. There I found that my wallet had been stripped of the cash from my go-bag, probably by one of the bystanders back at the river rescue. And I made an equally fast withdrawal from a Bank of America ATM. A risky move, but I needed the money, and I also did it for another reason. So low on cash, not knowing where I'm going, beyond the deadline. Pretty crappy. For some reason, my overworked mind flashes back to the history of the Israeli-Arab War of 1967, the one called the Six-Day War. It was small Israel versus 12 Arab nations, and instead of waiting around to get slaughtered, the Israelis conducted a preemptive strike. Before the jets flew and the tanks rolled, an Israeli armored division commander said, "Each unit will push forward as fast as it can. Pay no attention to your flanks. Give no thought to resupply. If you lose 9 tanks out of 10, keep advancing with the 10th. Stop for nothing." Right now, I'm my own unit, Task Force Cornwall, and I'm stopping for nothing. Up ahead, I see 2 young women walking by the side of the road, and I pull over. In a few seconds, after spinning a tale of woe about some shitty boyfriend who dumped me for parts unknown, I now know where Linden Street is located. I say thanks and get back to my driving. My loved ones may be dead by now. Or the kidnapper could be secretly extending the deadline. Or the kidnapper could have choked on a chicken bone last night and be dead. Or Tom and Denise could have escaped on their own. I don't know. As an intelligence officer, I need to deal with facts and figures. Making assumptions is forbidden. So are most educated guesses. So I go on. Less than 5 minutes later, I come to Linden Street. It's off another main street in this little town called North School Road, because, wow, it has a school. I resist the urge to drive down Linden. Instead, I drive a few more meters, stop, and turn around so I can get a look. The street seems reasonably new and well-paved, with a half-dozen homes on each side, and then the road dribbles out to a dirt path with some exposed foundations. A housing development that ran out of money? Possible. But which one is holding the prize? The key that will get my family free. From my glove box, I pull out a pair of nice, compact Zeiss binoculars. Give the street a quick glance. Then I know. The last house on the right looks like every other house. A 1-story structure with a carport on one side. Some thin shrubbery, and twisted trees that look doomed to only grow a few feet or so. But that last house has a huge pickup truck parked in the small driveway. The kind of truck with big tires and overhead roll bars fitted with lights. It also has an extended cab. That truck is sending a signal, although its owners probably don't realize it. The signal is that there are men in that house, more than one, and they have the confidence and money to strut around in such a big, visible vehicle. Like I said, the owners don't realize they've set up a signal. But I do. I shove the binoculars back in the glove box, resume my driving. A few minutes later, I'm parked in the shade behind a 3-store strip that has a laundromat, a dollar store, and a liquor store. I'm scribbling some notes, recreating what I just saw on Linden Street, and how best to approach it. I know my time deadline is far and away gone, like New Year's Eve hats and banners from several months ago. But like that Israeli general said more than a half-century ago, I'm stopping for nothing. I realize the stacked odds against me have gotten higher and higher with each passing hour, from the time delay to being robbed of all my cash. But I'm still not stopping. If in the next hour or so I get out of here with my guy and my Wrangler, I'll make the call and find out where to deliver him for the trade. Oh, yes, I'll make the drive. And I'll make the trade. No matter what happens, I'll bring my own kidnapped victim to the criminal who's taken my husband and daughter, and if Tom and Denise aren't produced, alive and breathing, then I'll blow out the man's brains in front of said criminal. And I'll drop my weapon. And if I'm instantly killed or eventually sent to prison, it won't matter a bit to me. Without my family, I'm dead anyway.
Chapter 47. After getting off the phone with his mom, who is still living near Seattle with his increasingly ill father, Army Lieutenant Preston Baker goes for a walk to clear his head and stretch his legs. The call did not go well. A year ago, his dad, a retired engineer from Boeing, was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's, and in the past few months his situation has gotten worse. There was a time when Preston's dad would impress friends and family with his ability to multiply two-digit numbers by other two-digit numbers quickly in his head and always have the right answer. But now that's gone. For the past couple of months, his father has managed to muddle through by reading little post-it notes around the house, reminding him to zip up his pants, comb his hair, and brush his teeth. But now, as his mother tearfully said, "His doctors think we need to put him in a facility. Oh, Presty, we don't have that kind of money." And neither do I, he thinks, as he walks along the roads near his apartment complex, wearing jeans and a faded blue polo shirt, taking his time, going from one busy intersection to another. To anyone out there, it would look like Preston was wandering aimlessly. But there is a point to his walk, and after 15 minutes, he gets to a dingy-looking 7-Eleven next to a Shell station. The area around the gas station is littered with plastic bottles, plastic bags, fast food wrappers, and other trash. But the 7-Eleven is relatively clean, because the guy running it, an immigrant from New Delhi, is an old-fashioned sort who wants to keep his place tidy. Preston ducks around the corner. Another way the guy is old-fashioned is that he likes to maintain a payphone on the outside, even now, in a time when one could pick up a cheap burner phone for just a few bucks. But Preston isn't looking to save a few bucks. He's looking to save his career in the Army. He drops a fistful of quarters into the phone, which has bright stickers in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, announcing its wonderful calling plans, and dials a number. It rings once, twice, and then is picked up. "Yes?" comes a familiar voice, from a man he's never met. "She came by yesterday, the woman you talked about." "And?" Preston turns away, as if trying to hide his face from anyone walking by with their Slim Jims or Slurpees. "I told her the story. The one you wanted me to say. Did it go all right?" "Yes." "You think she was satisfied?" "I think so. She didn't stay that long. It was like she just wanted to confirm what she already knew or suspected." The man says, "You did good. There'll be a wire transfer to your account within the next 12 hours. Anything else?" Well, suppose she comes back. Stick to the story." "But suppose she asks lots more questions." "Stick to the story." "Yeah, I know, but..." There's a click, and the man is hung up. He replaces the battered gray receiver with stickers and decals on it, wanders off to the rear of the store, which has 2 green dumpsters waiting to be picked up. Preston stares at the overflowing containers and thinks, wouldn't it be nice if the garbage inside of me could eventually be dumped like that? Clean everything out inside? Yeah, right. Some garbage inside will stay there no matter what. Preston turns and starts the long walk back to his apartment, and then on impulse, checks how much change he has left. Barely enough, but enough to make it happen. He goes back to the payphone, slides in the rest of his quarters, dials another number, and when a timid woman's voice answers, Preston says, "Ma, I think I can get the money to take care of you and Dad." Chapter 48. Rosaria Vasquez has just left the Corpus Christi International Airport and is speeding north across the flattest landscape she has ever seen in her life. There are cities off the distant horizon, steam and smoke plumes from industries at work in the Gulf of Mexico, and stunted, twisted trees that look like they've been transplanted from some old horror film. Several hours earlier, she was ready to jump into the shower and have an afternoon to herself, when she got a phone call from her boss, whose message was clear and to the point. "Get your butt to Corpus Christi and call me when you get on the highway." Now she's on Interstate 37, speeding along at 80 miles an hour, plenty of other traffic zipping past her, including a grocery truck from an outfit called HEB Plus. And with a practiced reach of her hand on her cell phone, she makes the call to her boss, Senior Warrant Officer Fred McCarthy. He wastes no time. "We finally got Lieutenant Cornwall's trail," he says. "A Tennessee highway patrolman was assaulted by her yesterday on Interstate 75 just north of Chattanooga." "Did he make a traffic stop? Had she been speeding?" "No, on both counts," her boss says. "She's just pulled over, like she was taking a pee break or something. The trooper says she was traveling alone and was going to meet up with a girlfriend in Chattanooga. He tried to search her car, and then she took him down." "Then why am I in Texas?" "Because she never stopped in Chattanooga, best I can find out, and because now she's in Texas," McCarthy says sharply. "This afternoon she was helping pull a car out of a flooded stream on a stretch of road on some empty landscape on Highway 59. Texas Highway Patrol took down her name and the license plate number, but the license plate was from Tennessee, not Virginia. And a few minutes ago we got a hit from a Bank of America ATM in some little town called Kennedy. She withdrew $400. Surveillance footage shows it was her. You head up there, find out what you can." "But, boss..." "What?" "Where are you getting this intelligence?" Even though she is hundreds of miles away from Quantico, she can feel the chill in her boss's voice. "It's good intelligence, that's all you need to know." She thinks it's probably great intelligence, but its sourcing stinks. Somehow her boss has either tapped into a domestic network or has been informed of Cornwall's travels by others in the dark intelligence arts. Getting police reports from state troopers in 2 states? Getting an ATM hit plus video surveillance of same? That is way, way out of CID traditional information systems. "Understood, boss," she finally replies. But what?" "I've gone through her service record. She has relatives in Maine. Her husband has relatives in Ohio. She's never been stationed in Texas. Why would she be going there?" McCarthy says, "Sounds like questions only a trained investigator like you can find out. So find it the hell out." "Yes, sir," she says. "Good," he says. "Just so you know, Kennedy is spelled with 1 N. Get back to me soonest with whatever you can find." "Yes, sir," she says. And that's that. She keeps on speeding along, thinking of a little historical display she noted at the airport while waiting to get her rental car. About 100 years ago, a Category 4 hurricane had struck right here, scouring the coast clean and killing up to 1,000 people. Rosaria glances up at the rearview mirror. Sunny blue sky back there. No clouds, no rain, no storm surge racing up behind her to take her away from this dark day, an even darker job. She pushes the Ford's accelerator down as her speed jumps to 90. Chapter 49. In a small house on a quiet street in Three Rivers, Texas, Antonio Garcia is pacing through the small, dirty kitchen, living room, his small bedroom, past the closed door of the other bedroom, and then back out to the kitchen. He has on stone-washed pressed Levi's jeans, a bright yellow Lacoste polo shirt, 1 size too small to show off his sculpted figure, and specially crafted Lucchese cowboy boots, worth nearly $2,000 American dollars. He is carrying a Smith & Wesson Model 544 revolver, one of the most powerful handguns in the world, in a Bianchi shoulder holster. The revolver is crap for shooting at long distances, but Antonio's work has always been up close and personal, and besides, carrying a small cannon like this scares the shit out of most folks he encounters in his work. He remembers seeing a Clint Eastwood movie when he was much younger, and how handsome Clint used such a revolver to cut down anyone who got in his way. On the couch in the dingy living room, ignoring the television that's showing a telenovela DVD, reading the Bible and carefully taking notes on a legal pad of yellow paper, is one of the other 3 men in this house, Pepe. Antonio doesn't like Pepe, because a month ago, Pepe found Jesus Christ and is now studying the ways he can save his soul. Slim and well-groomed Pepe says based on what he's done and what he will be doing, he hopes if he knows enough about Jesus, his soul might be saved after all when his time eventually comes. Antonio doesn't know about lost souls, lost his belief in Jesus and God years back, and if Pepe were to go soft on him, he'd blow his head off. But so far, Pepe has done his job, and Antonio leaves him alone. He also leaves Ramon alone, who is sleeping in the second bedroom, along with the fourth person in this house, the chicken. Back again on his trek, small kitchen, living room, his small bedroom, and back to the kitchen. He remembers as a boy his father affording one day to take him and his sister to the Chapultepec Zoo outside of Mexico City. And he remembers a big black bear. The bear was pacing back and forth, and he felt sad for the big guy. He should have been out in the wilderness, killing other creatures, eating what he wanted, humping any female bear in range. Instead, the bear was trapped, just like Antonio. He goes back to his pacing. This job isn't like any other job he's done for his jefe. He's done lots of kidnapping jobs, and except for a few, most of them involved working over the victim and torturing him until his family came up with the money that the jefe was demanding. But not this job. This job is full of rules, and Antonio hates rules. Don't leave the house. Don't draw attention to yourself. Keep things quiet. One of you to be awake at all times. No drinking. No drugs. And worst of all, don't mark, harm, or even touch the chicken you are guarding. Where's the fun in that? Most of the fun in jobs like this is seeing the fear in the chicken's eyes, seeing how much he screams when a finger or toe is lopped off, how he begs and begs for mercy, and how friendly and forgiving he becomes at the end when he is told that the ransom is paid and he will be released in just a short while. Sweet Mary, the chicken, even if short toes or fingers, will hug and kiss them all, forgiving them for doing a dirty and necessary job, and he will be in a cheerful mood until Antonio and his associates drive him to an empty cornfield and toss him into a drainage ditch and shoot him in the head. But not this chicken. He is protected, and he is to stay here until some Norteamericano knocks on the door, says a certain phrase, and then the chicken is to be released into this stranger's care. Antonio, Pepe, and Ramon will leave a half hour later, cross the border, and go home to Ciudad Juarez, and then have a week off to make up for the monastic existence they've been suffering. Back in the kitchen, Antonio stops, feeling hungry, thirsty, antsy. He opens the refrigerator, sees water and nothing else. Up in the freezer is a pile of frozen dinners. He's come to hate frozen dinners. Most times the gas stove here either overcooks or undercooks the frozen chunks of pasta or white frozen meat pretending to be chicken. He slams the door shut, goes back out to the living room. Pepe looks up at him. Pepe's skin is darker than his and Ramon's, and he's got a beak of a nose that marks some Aztec blood. But that blood must be thinned out some for Pepe to have found Jesus. He says to Antonio, "What's up?" "I'm going out." Pepe pauses, Bible in his lap, pen in his hand. "You can't." "Watch me. The jefe won't like it." "The jefe is hundreds of kilometers away," Antonio says, picking up a light tan jacket from the couch to wear over his polo shirt and his Smith & Wesson. "When we came here a few days ago, there was a McDonald's that just opened up. It's only 5 minutes away." Pepe says, "The jefe won't like it." "Yeah, but I don't like that crap we're forced to eat," Antonio says. "I'm going up there, get some fries, 2 Big Macs, an ice-cold drink. You can sit here and thump that Bible. I won't be gone long." He goes to the door, feeling the truck keys in the jacket pocket. Like some deranged talking doll or toy, Pepe calls out, "Antonio, the jefe won't like it." Antonio opens the door and says to Pepe, "He won't find out. If he does find out, I will blame you. And if that happens, dear Pepe, I'll make sure you meet Jesus at the end of the day." Chapter 50. Pelayo Abud returns to the room in the upper floor suite that's been converted into his own little communications center. And a distressed-looking Casper Correri looks to him and says, "Sir, the deadline has passed by an hour. We have not heard from the army captain." "Ah," he says, walking into the room, gently touching and slapping the bulky shoulders of the other 3 men working here on his behalf, sitting in front of keyboards, computer consoles, and radio equipment. "Do we have a view of the Three Rivers house?" A young lad named Alejandro says, "Sir, over here, if you please." Pelayo bends over and takes in the view from the large monitor. It's an amazing sight, like he's taking in a view from a sparrow or a hawk circling over the small house. The place looks empty, looks quiet. A few bits of shrubbery are scattered across the flat yard. The driveway is empty. That's not good. He says, "There is supposed to be a truck there, am I right?" "Yes, Jefe," Casper says, coming over to join him. "We saw it leave about 3 minutes ago." "I don't like that," Pelayo says. "You should have told me." "There was only one man who came out from the house," Casper explains. "We could see his size and shape. It was clear that he was not the one we're interested in." I see. The airborne drone circles and circles over the small house. It's an amazing thing what the scientists and engineers can do if given enough money and resources. Pelayo says, "Are we sure that this drone cannot be spotted?" Alejandro says, "This aerial platform, Jefe, was developed for the American CIA. It is nearly impossible to detect. 4 were given on loan to our Centro de Investigación y Seguridad Nacional." The young man smiles. "Officially, 1 was destroyed in a training accident, but as you can see, it has recovered quite nicely." "Good," Pelayo says. Casper steps closer to him, lowers his voice. "About the army captain, the deadline is passed. What shall we do?" Pelayo says, "We give her another hour. Why not? Sometimes it is to your advantage to show mercy." Alejandro leans over and whispers something to the man next to him, and the man laughs. Pelayo grips Alejandro's left shoulder. "I'm so sorry. Would you care to repeat that?" It was nothing, Jefe." "Oh, it must have been something. For your friend there to laugh so loud, please, share it with me." "Jefe." Pelayo squeezes harder. Alejandro gets the message. He stammers and says, "It was just a joke, that's all. I just said, good for you that Miguel isn't here to hear the talk of mercy." He releases his grip on the young man's shoulder, gives him a reassuring pat. "Ah, yes, my cousin Miguel. I suppose everyone knows about him, what he's done, what he's capable of doing. Even though he professes to be a religious man. And if he were to know that I just extended this deadline, it would not go well for me, would not go well for my company. Because Miguel would see any sign of mercy as a weakness, am I correct?" Alejandro whispers, "Yes, you're correct." Pelayo moves around so he's face to face with Alejandro. Everyone in this small room is now staring at what's going on. He reaches out and gently taps the side of the young man's cheek. "What? You think I'm so small, so weak, that I cannot take a joke, do you?" Alejandro just shakes his head no. Pelayo smiles, says to Casper, "This man, he's a brave one, and smart. He will go far. Come with me, Alejandro, will you?" The young man is smiling at his fellow workers and follows Pelayo out to the main room of the suite, where Pelayo says, "Get 2 Coca-Colas from the refrigerator and join up with me." Pelayo goes to the far balcony and takes in the sparkling view of the Gulf of Mexico. Another perfect day. He hears the door slide open and a shy voice, "Jefe?" He smiles, takes the open Coke bottle from the young man, already open and with a straw in it. He clinks his bottle with Alejandro's and says, "Well done, Alejandro." "Thank you, Jefe." Pelayo looks over the grounds that belong to him. Below is a narrow parking lot and a loading dock, and there are 2 mothers trying to herd about a half-dozen youngsters in bathing suits to the nearby swimming pool. He says, "Again, I admire your skills, your sense of humor. Too often there are organizations that are too rigid, too formal. Subordinates afraid to tell their superiors what's really going on, what kind of challenges are out there. Do you understand?" "Yes, Jefe." "Excellent." He takes another sip of the cold, biting, and so satisfying drink. The 2 mothers and their children are still moving as slow as a turtle carrying a cement block on its back. He says, "Tell me, you're in that room day in, day out. How do your co-workers feel about working here, about working for me?" Alejandro smiles. We all love it. The pay is generous, the working conditions are fine. We know you are strict in your rules about women, about the drink, about the drugs, but that is to be expected. To be so high up, to be working for such a man with such a future. Pelayo puts his bottle down on the railing. He looks over. The mothers and the children are gone. He says, Young man, there is one more thing you must know, and that is the role of the king. The king must be above it all, must be seen as all-knowing, all-powerful, and to be respected. Especially the respect. Otherwise words will be muttered, rumors will spread, and plots will commence. Alejandro's eyes grow frightened, and Pelayo decides to show him mercy by not making him wait in fear anymore. Pelayo leans in, punches Alejandro in the groin, making him double over and gasp, grabs the man's shirt collar with his left hand, and pushes him up and over the balcony railing using the strength of his right shoulder and his hand on Alejandro's waist. A brief yelp, a heavy thump that he can almost feel in his feet, and it's over. Pelayo picks up his glass bottle, gives the ground one more glance. Good. The two mothers and their children weren't there to witness what has just happened. Mercy, he ponders, can show many forms.
Chapter 51. The little mantra of, we're out of time, is marching through my mind. But then it stops as I see what's just happened. I'm hunkered down near a low and wide bush at the rear yard of the Target house, binoculars in hand, gathering intelligence. And then there's a little roar of an engine, and the big Ford pickup with the extended cab pulls out and goes down Linden Street, connecting with North School Road. And then it's gone. I spot one bulky guy behind the steering wheel. Well, I'm in a dry field of low grass and scrub brush, with some trees scattered here and there. It's good cover, about one of the few breaks that I've gotten on this heart-rending mission to Texas. There's a soft whir of insects flying around me, and I do my best to ignore them. Think, intelligence officer. Think. The home is one story, like most of the homes scattered up and down the street. Probably a small living room right off the front door. There are propane tanks facing me, meaning the kitchen is right there, to the right of the living room. Bathroom, not more than 2 bedrooms. Even though I've never been in that house, I can visualize the floor plan. How many people can you fit in a house like that? Person being held, that I need to steal away, that's 1. 3, maybe 4 guards? But 4 is pushing it. That'd be 5 people in that small house. Where would you put all of them? And 5 people eat a lot. I can't see these guys trucking to the local supermarket every other day to stock up. Too many eyes and ears in this small town. So they're hunkering down. Waiting. Not for me, I hope, but waiting for somebody else. All right. Let's call it 4 guys in that house, 1 being the guy I need to grab. That leaves 3 armed guards watching over things, and 1 is just left. The firepower in that house has just decreased by 33%. The guy that's gone, maybe he's out for a grocery run or a beer run, or maybe he's off to church, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be gone. Time to move. I slip the small binoculars into my coat pocket, take out my Sig Sauer 9mm, make sure there's a round in the chamber, and off I go. I have no illusions. There are armed men in that house, and there will be shooting. But I have surprise on my side. And one other thing. Almost all armed men who do bad things can never see a woman as a possible threat. It's just not in their DNA, or in the way they think, or how they've learned. And I'm about 90 seconds away from giving them one hell of a lesson otherwise.
Chapter 52. Pepe Torres is struggling with a certain phrase of St. Paul's in his letter to the Romans when Ramon Hernandez walks in, face red, wearing a tight black tank top and black shorts, peeling off white workout clothes. There's a small weight set in one of the bedrooms, and he's been dedicated to his daily workout routine. Ramon's head is shaved, and most of his body is covered with badly inked tattoos he got while in prisons like La Mesa or El Hongo. He picks up a dirty towel from a chair and wipes his hands and face. "How goes it, Christian?" he asks. Pepe says, "I'm working very hard. How is our guest?" "Snoozing. I don't know anyone who can sleep so much. I envy him. His mind must be very innocent to be able to sleep with no worries." Pepe scribbles one last note. "I need to go to the bathroom. Can you stay here for a few minutes?" "Sure, just don't stink up the place, all right?" Ramon plops down on the couch next to Pepe and slaps his knee with his hand. "Where did Antonio go?" "He was hungry. He went to the new McDonald's to get something to eat." "Oh, the Jefe won't like that." "Well, I won't tell him." "Neither will I," Ramon says. "That Antonio needs to chill, am I right? Here we are. We don't have the best food or bedding, but hey, we don't have to worry about some chicos coming by, strafing us with iron bananas." Pepe puts his notepad to the side, carefully closes the Bible, thinking, yes, Ramon is right, even using the slang for AK-47s, iron bananas. His bladder is full and he needs to go. As he stands up, Ramon says, "Hey, did Antonio say he'd bring anything back?" "No," Pepe says, walking out of the living room. "Figures, that stingy bastard. Hey, you taking the good book to the crapper?" Pepe says, "Why not?" Ramon laughs, picks up the control for the television. "I don't know, it just seems bad bringing the Bible into the crapper." Pepe moves along. Jesus is everywhere, even in the bathroom. As he goes into the bathroom and closes the door, he thinks he hears a knock, but pays it no mind. Ramon can handle anything out there. Chapter 53. Ramon Hernandez checks the telenovela DVD playing on the old colored television and frowns. It's a good one, La Reina del Sur, starring that knockout actress with legs that go on forever, Kate del Castillo. But he's seen this series at least twice. That chica Kate plays an innocent woman who gets involved in cartels and smuggling, and Ramon loves that shit. And, no harm in watching it a third time. There's a knock on the door. He pauses the DVD. Another knock. He reaches under a couch cushion, takes out a Beretta Model 12 9mm pistol, one of the many weapons hidden in the house. He walks off to the side, looks through the window. No traffic, no cars parked in front. He can barely make out a shape on the front stone steps. One person, then. Is it the Norteamericano? The pickup guy for their guest? Could be. And then he and Pepe and Antonio can get the hell out of here and get back to work. It's been nice to relax and do some workouts and weightlifting, but that crappy frozen food and lumpy bed are starting to get to him. The knock comes again. "Hold on!" he calls out in English. He moves slowly to the door and peers out through the peephole. Small guy standing there, shoulders hunched up, wearing a black baseball cap, hands hanging down, empty. He's got on blue jeans with some sort of silvery stripes on them. That's it. Ramon thinks briefly of waiting until Pepe shows up, after he wipes his bum and thinks, now just one small guy out there. Besides, if it is their contact, won't Antonio be pissed that he missed the handoff? Let him try to explain to the Jefe why he wasn't here. He slides the pistol into the side of his tight black shorts, opens the door.
Chapter 54. After I knock at the house again, turned sideways so whoever's inside can't get a good look at me, I'm racing through a lot of options and choices in my mind. Maybe I should have waited some more. Maybe I should have just tossed a cement block through the rear sliding glass door. Maybe going in through the front door isn't the best idea. Too late. I'm committed. The door opens up, and unlike my comrades in the service, who more often than not can practice and re-practice and practice yet again a raid on a compound or a heavily defended house, I'm going in cold, as they say, making up shit as I go along. I turn to see who's there, and holy God, it's one bulky and scary-looking guy. Hispanic, shaved head, tattoos up and down his thick biceps and legs, even on his hairless and muscular chest. and he's wearing black shorts and a tank top, and now I've got to hit him now. "Yes," he says in accented English. "What do you want?" My hand quickly goes to my coat pocket, and his eyes widen and he steps back, reaching to his side where I see the handle of a pistol, but I'm faster. And I come out with the same canister of pepper spray I took from the trooper in Tennessee, and I push forward, aim it right at his face, and thumb the trigger. A slight hiss. Nothing happens. Nothing comes out. It's empty. The guy pauses, and then bursts out laughing at me. And I know what's going through his mind. Silly girl can't do anything right. So I punch him hard in the throat, still holding the metal canister in my hand. He coughs, stumbles back, and I punch him again in the throat, and he lifts both hands to his neck, starts gurgling, his eyes slightly bulging, and I know that my allotted seconds to get this done are sliding away, so I give a good whirl on my left foot, kick out with my right, and catch him behind the near knee. He tumbles to the floor, damn near making the room shake. I put the useless canister back into my jacket pocket, pull off one of the strips of silver duct tape I earlier placed on both pant legs, and with a knee to the small of his back, I work quickly to get his wrists bound behind him. I grab the pistol from his waistband, toss it to one corner of the room, and then I tape his bare lower legs, and I'm thinking, fast, have to go faster. And then I look up, and a skinny guy is coming into the room, holding a black leather book with a gold cross on the cover. We stare at each other for a second. He ducks back into the kitchen, and I get up and move fast. And he's turning around in the kitchen, spinning, and the book is now a pistol, and he's bringing it up, shooting at me. I react within seconds, pulling out my Sig Sauer and remembering the long hours on the range. Better to get off an imperfect shot than wait to make a perfect shot and get your head blown off. And my first round misses. The second one catches him in the upper right thigh. And the next one strikes him dead center in the chest. He falls against the near cabinets, making one door pop open, and dishes and glassware fall out, and his moans and the sound of the shattering glass nearly drown out the bellowing from behind me. I whirl, and the big guy has torn away the strips of duct tape and is grabbing another pistol from under the couch, and he brings up his weapon, and I shoot again, and I catch him right in his mouth. He falls right back in a spray of blood and knocks over the television set, increasing its volume, and some sort of Mexican music starts echoing through the house, overpowering the ringing in my ears. I'm shaking now, and I go forward and grab the big guy's pistol from the floor, stick it in my waistband, and then retrieve the weapon from the skinny guy in the kitchen, put it in the opposite waistband of my jeans, and I'm panting, trying to get some sort of semblance of calm. Because if there's another gunman in here, he'd have to be as deaf as the biggest bat in the world, not to hear all the loud noise coming from this horrid gunfight. But nobody else is coming at me. I go up a short hallway, hammer open a door to a bedroom, check under the bed, and then the closet. Lots of piles of smelly clothes and porn magazines. I go to the other bedroom, and it's a twin of its mate, this time with weight equipment. Again under the bed and in the small closet. Nobody else is here. Chapter 55. Then I curse myself again for being so thick. Thank God I'm not a platoon leader, because I'd probably end up decimating my troops on our first mission. And I go back down the short hallway, kick open the door to the bathroom, and there's a man, huddled in the bathtub, holding up hands that are shaking like tall grass in the wind. I recall what the man on the phone said when he called me about the kidnapping of Tom and Denise. "You'll know him when you see him. He'll be the one without a weapon." By God, he's right. The man in the bathtub seems to be in his late 60s, early 70s. He's wearing a two-piece dark blue suit with a white shirt. His thin white hair is carefully combed, and he has a nicely trimmed white beard. His hands are empty and they are quivering. I say, "Come on, let's go. Let's move it." He doesn't move. I step forward, roughly grab his wrist. "Amigo, buddy, whoever the hell you are, let's get going." With some difficulty, he clambers out of the tub, and I shove him forward. And we go through the bloody kitchen, now smelly as the dead, skinny guy becomes even more dead, and I get the sliding door open, and we're off on a rear patio. I grab his wrist again and start running. We run for a few minutes until I get to the grove of trees and scrub brush where I parked my Jeep. I open the passenger door, shove him in, and as I do that, I drop the 2 pistols I had gotten from the house after wiping them down. To hell with the extra firepower. Too much to carry around. I go around and start up the Wrangler. My hands, neck, and lower back are soaked with sweat that is quickly turning cold. A few minutes ago, I just killed 2 men. 2 men and their dreams and their lives and their hopes and their history. I've just snuffed out. I guess I should feel guilty. But the first guy I shot, he shot first, and the second guy I shot, well, based on his tats and his attitude, he was no Boy Scout either. No guilt then. At least not now. I pull out and get on a side road that runs parallel to Linden. Then drive up to North School Road and make a left. I see flashing blue lights in my rearview mirror. That was quick. Must be some very attentive neighbors back there. I keep my speed low, keep on driving, and look up in the mirror again. I see one cruiser and it looks like another is coming down North School Road, and I think, all right, one cruiser will probably go down Linden. And what will the second cruiser do? Join the first one? Or come after the only other moving vehicle on North School Road? Me. One more glance. A couple of curious folks emerge from their small houses, putting their hands up to their foreheads, blocking the sun, looking at the action. The first cruiser turns, and then the second. The road behind me is empty. So is the one in front of me. I take a deep breath, let it out, glance at my passenger. He is gently rearranging his coat and his shirt, and then he looks around and grabs the seatbelt, pulls it over and clicks it shut. Hey, I say. You okay? You didn't get hurt, did you? He gives me a look, almost sad, tired, a look of pity. Then he turns and looks out the windshield. I make a right, take out my iPhone, check my cell phone signal. Pretty weak. I need to make the most important call of my life to that man out there who has my family. And I'm not going to take a chance on losing the call over a bad signal. I put the phone in my lap, keep on driving. I say to the man next to me, I'm sorry I'm doing this to you. Very, very sorry. He doesn't say a word. No matter, I think. One way or another, he's valuable to me. The key to get Tom and Denise freed. And if he wants to stay quiet, fine. In fact, more than fine, it's perfect. I don't need to hear him begging or pleading to be let go as I take him to the man who wants him. I look at my iPhone. The signal is getting stronger. Good. I pull over and dial that number from memory. In less than 3 seconds, it's answered, and I recognize the voice. Yes? Got him, I say. There's an all-knowing chuckle from the phone. I know.
Chapter 56. Antonio Garcia belches in satisfaction and looks at the nice porn movie he's watching on his Galaxy with the bigger screen he got last year, with his belly full of 2 Big Macs and a large order of French fries. He's parked in the lot of the new McDonald's, and he wishes he had come here earlier. The frozen food's back at their place. Ugh. He sips on a big cup of orange Fanta and wonders if he should go back in for something else to top off his meal. Perhaps one of those grilled chicken sandwiches. Chicken. No, he really should get back to the house before Pepe decides it would be the Christian thing to tell their jefe that he has violated orders and has left the place. The earlier Pepe would never have squealed like that, but the new Pepe? Who knows? Once a man starts believing in the gods, anything can happen. He sucks in the Fanta and finishes it, tosses the empty cardboard cup in the rear. Coming through the border crossing a week ago was so easy, even when the Border Patrol took them aside for a detailed search. Of course, the look of them made the Norteamericanos suspicious. He, Pepe, and Ramon, looking the way they did, escorting a man who was so well-dressed and polite he looked like a retired television star. The truck was pulled apart, 2 bitch dogs sniffed around and poked, and nothing was found. Nothing. Not a seed, not a trace of powder, not a single 9mm round. So they were sent on their way, and when they arrived in this little crap hole in Texas, they found that weapons, DVDs, and food had been stocked up in that little house. He peeks down at the screen of his Galaxy phone and sighs. A sweet movie. It is about a busty housewife wearing a skimpy bikini who invites 3 bulky men into her home to clean the pool. Oh yeah, a lot of cleaning was going on, but none of it involved chemicals or skimmers. The 4 of them had started poolside, nice and gentle, and now they were in the wide living room of the house, and the housewife was being tossed around like a doll with flexible limbs. Antonio watches for a few more minutes. The movie is great, but he's seen some real stuff. The video quality not so great, but what was being filmed could never be sold in public. But you take what you can get. When the movie is done, he slides his Galaxy off, feels his stomach grumble. One more sandwich, why not? He pulls around and goes through the drive-thru, and a sweet little blonde Anglo girl with a big bust under her ugly uniform passes over his order. She's cute, but her face is broken out with acne. But so what? That's what pillows or paper bags are made for. He smiles at her, says, "Gracias," in his most polite and sweet voice, and drives off with his second McDonald's meal of the day. God, the scent of that food. He starts eating before he even leaves the parking lot, and when he gets on North School Road, he wipes his fingers with a bunch of paper napkins, steering with his knees. Up ahead, a police cruiser is coming straight at him, lights on, siren wailing. What? He checks his speed, sees he's right at the speed limit, as he always drives. How many of his friends have come here to the States and ended up in jail because of speeding or having a broken taillight? And he just keeps on going. The cruiser slides into a turn, heading right down Linden Street. He swears softly, thoroughly, and with great enthusiasm, and he slows down just a bit more. All right. Slow enough not to get attention, but fast enough to look like an innocent resident, wondering what all the excitement is. Madre de Dios! There are 2 police cruisers pulled up in front of their house, and an ambulance and fire truck are parked nearby. Cops are there, weapons drawn, huddled behind the police cruisers. What the hell happened in the short time since he left? More curses. The warm and tasty food in his belly has just turned into heavy, wet, cold cement. He is screwed up. The words of his jefe come back to him. Don't draw attention to yourself. Keep things quiet. One of you to be awake at all times. No drinking, no drugs, and most of all, don't leave the house. Another siren cuts through him, and he sees another cruiser fishtailing around another corner, heading straight toward Linden Street. Like a good law-abiding citizen, he pulls over. Don't leave the house. All right, something has happened, something bad. He chews on his lower lip. He can still make it work. He'll call the jefe and tell him something. He had to leave because the chicken was ill. That's right, their guest was ill, and he had to get medicine at the local drugstore. While he was there, something bad happened. It was a stroke of fortune to be out of the house so he could tell the jefe what happened, be a witness. His boss will be angry, but will be understanding, Antonio is sure. For the jefe's concern was that the old man be kept safe and secure until the Norteamericano showed up. And considering the police response, Jesus, is that another siren he's hearing? There certainly wasn't anything polite or quiet going on down there during the past several minutes. He resumes driving, turns onto St. Mary's Street, starts rehearsing what he's about to tell the jefe. A pause. But what about Pepe? Pepe knew exactly where he was going. Not off to get medicine, but to get some hot McDonald's food. He ponders some more. Considering what he's seen, Pepe is wounded, dead, or alive in police custody. If he's in police custody, Pepe will know the rules. Keep quiet, no phone call, which can be tapped, and wait for someone from the cartel to come retrieve him. If he's wounded, then he'll be in a local hospital. Antonio can track him down, and then take care of him. And if Antonio's very, very lucky, then Pepe is dead and is now explaining himself to the God he believed in. Antonio doesn't believe in God, but believes in his Jefe, and now it's time to make a confession of sorts. He picks up his phone, and then freezes. No signal. Chapter 57. Pelayo Abud is relaxing on a couch in his expansive suite, reading The Economist, when Casper slips out of a door and gestures to him. He puts The Economist down and strolls over to his trusted deputy, and Casper whispers to him, "There's something going on at Three Rivers. Quickly, please." He steps in, and Casper gently escorts him to a wide computer screen that has the feed coming in from the ex-CIA drone that now belongs to Pelayo and his organization. Once again, he is taken aback by the details he can see from the aerial platform. "Are we sure this cannot be seen?" One of the technical men who replaced the unfortunate Alejandro quietly says, "Fairly certain, Jefe. It has what is known as a chameleon liquid outer shell. The drone adjusts its own color to match the sky and flying clouds. For someone on the ground, they might hear the buzzing sound, and that will be all." "Your name, son?" "Ferdinand." He gently squeezes the young man's shoulder. "Well said, Ferdinand." He leans over and asks Casper, "What then is going on?" Casper takes a pen and places it on the screen, lower right, where there seem to be low trees and brush. He taps the screen and says, "A few minutes ago, we saw a person crawl into this brush. It seems like the house is under surveillance." "I see." Pelayo looks to the house. "And the truck is still gone?" "Yes," Casper says. Then Pelayo stops talking as a figure emerges from the brush and walks quickly to the nearby road, and then strolls up to the front of the house. "Well," Pelayo says. With reluctance, the young man says, "Jefe?" "Yes, don't be shy." "If you want, I can lower the drone's altitude, which may make it easier for it to be seen. But there's a microphone. We might be able to hear voices." "Do it," he says. The young man manipulates the keyboard and the view tightens in on the house, looking down from above, and Pelayo imagines the possibilities of having several drones like this, perhaps armed with weapons. An avenging angel overseeing his enemies. He likes that idea. Sound crackles from the speakers set next to the computer screen. He can hear a car horn, the sound of wind. The figure, wearing a baseball cap and regular clothes, comes to the front door and knocks. Casper says, "Could that be the army captain?" "It might," Pelayo says. There's another knock on the door, and then a third. "Could the house be empty?" Casper asks. Pelayo says, "Don't even think of such a thing." Then, voices. He can actually hear a voice, and the figure disappears into the house. Gunshots. Pow! Pow! 3 more rapid gunshots in a row, then another one. Pelayo leans over some more, like he's now part of the drone, watching everything unfold beneath him. 2 figures emerge from the rear of the house, run across the yard. Ferdinand manipulates the keyboard one more time, and they watch as the 2 people go into a grove of trees. A minute later, what looks to be a jeep drives out and onto a road. The drone follows the jeep's progress. With pleasure in his voice, Casper says, "The army captain. She drives a jeep." "So she does," Pelayo says. "I guess that was the army captain after all, eh?" He watches as the jeep maneuvers its way through some streets and then pulls over. Pelayo says, "The phone, if you please." Casper passes it over to him. He holds it, waits a few minutes. It rings. He answers. "Yes?" The woman's voice comes through clear and strong. "Got him," she says. Pelayo chuckles. "I know." He puts the phone against his chest, so she can't hear what he says to his crew, for he knows that they are still worried and disturbed by the day's earlier events, and the fact that one chair in this room is blatantly empty. With a smile to his crew, Pelayo says, "You see? Sometimes it pays to be merciful."
This is the end of CD 4. The book continues on CD 5. CD 5.
Chapter 58. So the son of a bitch already knows, which doesn't surprise me that much. Having committed at least a half-dozen serious capital crimes in kidnapping and threatening my family, there's obviously something very big on the line for him. So it stands to reason he'd be keeping track of me. But he doesn't realize the mistake he's made in revealing this information, which now gives me some hard intelligence I didn't have before, knowing for a fact I'm being tracked. That's the thing with civilians. They watch some History Channel documentaries, read a bio of a Navy SEAL or two along with Sun Tzu, and they think they're a goddamn strategic genius. I say, "All right, I've got him. What now?" "Let's verify you have the right person. Will you describe him?" I give my silent passenger one good look and say, "Gentleman in his late 60s, early 70s. Well-dressed, well-groomed, white beard and hair. Brown eyes. Wearing a nice suit, no necktie. You want I should ask him his blood type?" Another chuckle. "That won't be necessary." I hear another siren coming in from another direction. This place is hot, and is going to get much hotter. And I need to get moving before some smart cop starts setting up roadblocks. "What now?" I ask. "You're to bring him to me in good health. You're to drive east, to a town called Beachside, Florida. It's off Route 98, just below Miramar Beach, and above another town called Seaside. If you were to drive non-stop, it should take you just about 13 hours. But as you can tell, I'm in a giving mood. Your deadline is exactly 24 hours from now." "Where in Beachside?" "There's a small plaza in the center of town, with a little open music hall and fountain. Park there and call me. And then I'll give you further instructions." "Why is this old man so important to you?" "Really, Captain Cornwall? Do you expect me to answer that question?" "I'm a hopeful gal." "So you are," he says. The man next to me is staring ahead with a mournful look. What has brought him here? And why is he so needed in Florida? "Sorry, I don't care." I say, "I need to talk to Tom right now." "I'm sorry. That's not possible." A sharp shard of cold ice has just been shoved into my chest. "Make it possible," I say slowly and with emphasis. "I'm not in a position to do that at this time," he says. "Then change your position." He says, "I give you my word that they are safe, but they are also in a secure location that is sometimes difficult to access. But I promise you this. When you get to Beachside, and before the exchange, you will be able to talk to him." I look to the quiet and nice-looking man sitting next to me. "Hey!" I yell in his direction. And he's startled. Great. That means he can hear, and is going to hear what I'm saying next. Okay, I don't trust you or your worthless word, but we'll have an understanding, okay? When I get to Beachside and phone you, I will hear from Tom directly. I will also hear from Denise, directly and separately. I will be able to ask them both questions to ensure that they are safe and are ready for me to pick them up. Meaning? Meaning I want to know that they're in the area, all right? I don't want them to be somewhere in Georgia or Alabama or someplace else, so you need to come up with some sort of solution that tells me they're nearby. Or else? He asks. I look to the man who's now staring at me with his soft brown eyes. Or else I take the man you desire so much, stand him next to the fountain you mentioned, and blow his goddamn head off. I disconnect the call. The old man's gaze doesn't flinch. I start up the Jeep and say to him, "In case you didn't notice, I shot 2 men dead in your house back there, all in order to get my family back. No offense, Buster, but if I don't get my family back safe and sound, you're not living out tomorrow." Then I shift into drive and do my best to get out of town.
Chapter 59. When the army captain hangs up her phone, Pelayo says aloud, "My, she's a feisty one, isn't she?" Some nervous laughter from his workers, and Casper steps closer to him and says, I just need to ask this, and no offense." Pelayo puts his arm around his deputy's shoulders. "Casper, you have served me well for many years. How could you say anything offensive to me? Please, tell me what's on your mind." Well, I've always wondered. Since you learned what was going on with Tom Cornwall, and you also learned who was being kept at that house in the Three Rivers, why did you send in that man's wife? Wouldn't it have been easier and quicker to use our own people? He gives Casper a reassuring squeeze. "That's good thinking, and I admire you so. But these are complicated times. Sometimes it's best to contract out a job like this in case it goes wrong. If we were to send our own resources, they might stand out. They might be witnessed, it being a small town and such. Besides, it's always fun to blame the Americans in case it did go wrong and the army captain died, and if our subject died, well, that would be God's will." Another squeeze to Casper's thick shoulder. "Besides, having everything in one place within easy reach makes cleanup so much easier. Best to have the American family and our absent friends all within easy reach." Casper says, "Don't you think the army captain will be suspicious?" Pelayo says, "I'm counting on it." Chapter 60. Rosaria Vasquez is doing her best to navigate her way in the very small town of Three Rivers, Texas. Earlier, she'd been sent by her boss to go to the equally small town of Kennedy, where Captain Cornwall had used a Bank of America ATM to make a cash withdrawal. But an unexpected and quick phone call from Senior Warrant Officer McCarthy changed that. "There have been shootings at a home in Three Rivers," he said. "Next town over from Kennedy. Go check it out." "Do you have information that Captain Cornwall was involved?" And McCarthy said, "Hell no, but you're going to find out. She was in Kennedy not too long ago, and now there are dead people in the small town next door on Linden Street, and I don't believe in coincidences." Vasquez checks her rental car's GPS, which sometimes winks in and out, like there's some sort of communications foul-up in this town. Even though she's never been in Three Rivers before in her life, it feels very familiar. In her investigations over the years, visiting small towns like this to talk to soldiers either on leave or recently discharged, it was always the same. A struggling, proud, small town that doesn't have much opportunity for recent graduates, except for the military. The GPS sends her down North School Road, and up ahead, a police cruiser races toward her, then makes a sudden turn to the right. The GPS quits on her. No matter. She knows where she's going. Up ahead, she sees the sign for Linden, makes a left, and then pulls her rental car over. There's a mess of people and police cruisers down the street, along with a fire truck and ambulance. And she knows she has to take this one easy. For one thing, Captain Cornwall might not be connected to this in any way. And for another, locals are always suspicious, and rightfully so, about having the feds, FBI, ICE, military police, come in and stomp over everything. Rosaria steps out, puts on her jacket, and slings her black leather bag over her shoulder. She starts walking down the street, retrieving her Army CID shield as she does so, walking by the fire truck and ambulance. Clustered around the plain one-story house are two black and white police cruisers belonging to the Three Rivers Police Department, one white cruiser belonging to the McMullen County Sheriff's Department, and another black cruiser with a white hood from the Texas State Police. Officers with drawn weapons are slowly going through the yard, and one officer comes out of the house, also with weapon in hand, and yells out, "Clear! But for Christ's sake, we got a goddamn bloodbath in there! Anybody know when the chief will get here?" Someone answers him, and Rosaria pushes her way through a handful of civilians until she comes up to a heavy-set Three Rivers officer wearing a dark blue uniform, holding his arms out. "Sorry," he says. "There's an active crime scene. Nobody's allowed through." Rosaria shows her badge. "Warrant Officer Rosaria Vasquez, U.S. Army. I'm a special agent with the Criminal Investigation Command." He eyes her badge and identification, and almost looks relieved. Sweet Jesus, what a mess we got. I'm involved in an investigation that might have a connection to what's happened here, she says, still keeping her identification in hand. May I ask who's in charge? That'd be Sergeant Morales, over there by the door. Your name, officer? Puntes. She smiles, one Hispanic to another, helping out. Thanks, Officer Puntes. I appreciate the cooperation. Rosaria walks by him, just as another officer trots up, quickly unspooling the traditional black and yellow crime scene tape. And as she gets closer to the house, there are a lot of loud voices, cursing, and more loud voices, until a woman's voice cuts through and says, That's enough! Right now we got 2 victims inside, and nothing's getting moved or touched until the chief and our own crime scene investigator show up. The woman is Sergeant Morales, skinny and short but wearing her dark uniform with pride, and now with anger. She's glaring at the other officers, 2 from the county and 1 from the state, and then notices Rosaria. And where the hell are you from? She demands. Border Patrol? Rosaria displays her identification and badge, and Morales nods and says, Nice, the Army, why the hell not? Add more confusion and jurisdictional pissing to this mess. What brings you here? Rosaria sees the other officers looking on with interest, and Morales sees that as well and says, All right, I get it, come on. Let's duck around the corner. At the corner of the house, Rosaria sees 2 other officers slowly going across the field, and Morales says, The chief goes out of town for a doctor's appointment, and look at the shitstorm that just got dumped over my head. So, Vasquez, is that it? Yes, Sergeant. What's going on with the Army? Rosaria says, If I tell you, will you tell me what happened here? Christ, yes. In fact, I'd love to bundle it up in a big box and bow and pass it over to you. I can't tell you the last time we had a homicide in 3 Rivers, and I grew up here. And now we got a double homicide? Damn. Rosaria puts her identification away. I'm investigating an AWOL Army officer. She was last spotted in a town called Kennedy. Sure, right down the highway. Well, I was on my way to Kennedy when I got the information about the shootings here in 3 Rivers. Morales frowns. What, you got some crazy vet suffering from PTSD, going on some sort of killing rampage? No, not at all, Rosaria says. Good. I got 2 nephews, good boys both, who've been to Iraq and Afghanistan. I won't stand for that shit, anybody dissing our veterans. So why do you think there's a connection? I don't know if there's a connection, she says. That's why I'm here. It just seems odd that my AWOL officer would be spotted in Kennedy, and then there's a shooting here not long after. Your officer a combat veteran? No, she's an intelligence officer. She got family around here? No, she's originally from Maine. She's never been to Texas, has never been stationed in Texas. She got somebody here she might have a grudge against? Not that I know of. And you don't know of any connection between her and my town? Not at all. Morales slaps at a buzzing fly and says, Fair enough. You've been up front with me. Now it's my turn. We got a 911 call about 20 minutes ago, saying there were shots fired at this house. No big deal, hearing gunshots, but the caller said the shots came from within the house, and that she had spotted 2 people running away from the scene. First responder came in, saw bodies and blood, and that's where we stand. Any identification of the victims? 2 adult males, that's all we know. Both died from gunshot wounds. They rent or own the place. That's being tracked down. Rosaria nods. Mind if I take a peek inside? Morales says. Think you can stand it? No, Rosaria says. I know I can stand it. Chapter 61. At the steps leading into the house, a young male 3 Rivers police officer holds a clipboard in his slightly trembling hands, and near his feet there's an open black plastic case. The door to the house is propped open with a rock. Morales bends over the case, comes back up, and hands over a set of light blue paper booties and latex gloves. As Rosaria and the sergeant start getting dressed, another 3 Rivers officer comes over, nearly breathless, and says, Mr. Houston, up 2 houses. He says the folks who were here had a big black pickup truck, extended cab, with those overhead lights. He said it drove out a while ago, and he's not sure of the time. Morales says, Okay then, put it out. I'm busy here. Once they're both dressed, Morales says, I know you're a pro, but I still have to say it. Be careful where you step, And before you touch anything, ask me first. Savvy? You got it. At the open door, the officer notes the time and writes down Morales' name, and Rosaria presents her identification. After the recording is done, essential at any homicide scene to keep track of the traffic, Morales goes in, and Rosaria closely follows. The police sergeant stops, and Rosaria takes in the bloody scene. The smell of death is here in this room, and unlike other crime scenes she's visited over the years, this one is relatively fresh. Too soon for body decomp to have set in, though there's the aroma of discharged firearms mixed in with the pungent scent of bodies having just been ripped apart by bullets traveling at several thousand feet per second. The dead man in this small living room is huge, bulked up, and Rosaria can imagine the house shuddering when he hit the ground. He's wearing black shorts and a wrestler-type tank top, and there are torn and twisted strips of gray duct tape around his ankles and wrists. What's visible on his skin are a lot of tattoos, and Morales notices Rosaria's interest as she leans over the dead man and says, "Rough ink work, right? That's Mexican prison stuff right there. Our dead guy here has a lot of blood and bullets under his belt." Rosaria says quietly, "Yeah, +1 through the mouth. Good shooting. Or accidental. Once bullets start flying, you never know where they'll end up." The television is on its side, the sound and picture still on, and Rosaria cants her head and says, "Looks like a telenovela. Good call." Rosaria straightens up and says, "This guy, he wasn't shot right off when the intruder came to the door. He either recognized the intruder or didn't think he or she was a threat, and the intruder, violent death wasn't the goal." Morales nods. "Yeah, the duct tape. Looks like the big guy here got caught or stunned, was secured by the duct tape, but was strong enough and pissed enough to tear himself free. And look at this." Morales steps over the dead man's thick and outstretched legs, points down to the floor between him and the couch. "Don't touch it, but it looks like a Beretta 9mm down there. I did a quick check before he showed up. There's weapons stashed all over the place. Way I figure it, he was down for the count but managed to break free, find a weapon, and he was zapped before he could use it." "All right," Rosaria says, noting the bloody and gaping wound in the man's mouth and head. Flies are starting to come in and buzz around. Morales goes into the tiny kitchen, and Rosaria follows, careful to keep her footsteps slow and careful. It wouldn't do to slip on the paper booties and fall on your ass in front of a local. In the kitchen is another dead man, also shot, splayed out against a kitchen counter, broken dishes and glassware on the floor. This one is younger and slimmer than his companion in the living room. Morales says, "Looks like Junior here took the brunt of the assault. At least 3 wounds I can see, and no duct tape." Rosaria nods, says to Morales, "Mind if I check the refrigerator and cabinets?" "Sure, you hungry?" "Not yet." The cabinets are mostly empty, save for bags of potato chips and tortilla chips, some containers of salsa. The refrigerator is nearly empty as well, but the freezer is full of Swanson frozen meals. Rosaria says, "Temporary quarters for temporary guests." "You got it." She sees a book on the floor near the dead man. It's a Spanish-language Bible. "What do you think of this?" Rosaria asks. Morales says, "Looks like the guy had a come-to-Jesus moment before the bullets started flying." Rosaria says, "I wonder what Jesus might be saying to him now." Rosaria carefully goes through the rest of the house. Another siren in the distance. 2 bedrooms, each with a bed and a mattress on the floor. "Looks like 4 guys," she says. "Waiting. But for what?" "Not for a hit," Morales says. "But really—" The sound of the siren grows louder. "Go on," Rosaria says. "What were you going to say?" "It wasn't a hit, it was a snatch," she says. "We got a report of 2 guys running across the field after the shooting started. We got 2 dead guys here. That means our 2 runners were probably the shooter and somebody else. And if you were just coming in to hit the residence, you wouldn't be running away with another guy in tow." Rosaria says, "You got sleeping arrangements for 4. "Yeah, and we also know that a large tricked-out pickup truck left before the shooting started. Maybe that guy betrayed his friends here. Went out to make a phone call. And then the hit comes. Might be halfway to the border by now." Rosaria nods and just walks quietly out of the house, and on the worn, beaten-down brown lawn, tugs off the gloves and the booties. Morales keeps hers on. Rosaria says, "But it certainly wasn't a hit." "How are you so sure?" Morales asks. "The guy with the duct tape. It means the shooter came in with mercy on her mind. She didn't want to kill anybody right off, but she killed when she had to, and then she left with the man she was here to take. If this had been a hit, there would have been no duct tape. Just a shooter coming in with an M4 or an Uzi or an AK-47, just hosed down every room." Morales says, "I like the way you think." Rosaria smiles. "So do I." With her warm and moist hands, she reaches into her jacket, removes a business card, passes it over. "You and I both know that in a few minutes, your chief is going to show up, your crime scene folks, maybe more state troopers and the Texas Rangers. But I would sure love to talk to you directly, without having to go through the chain of command, especially if you can get an idea of who the victims were, why they were here, and what they were protecting." Morales nods, passes over her own business card. "When did you know it was your army officer?" "What?" Morales says, "A few minutes ago you said the shooter was a she. Earlier you said him or her. What made you decide?" Rosaria gives her a wide smile, and Morales smiles in return when she says, "Female intuition, what else?" Morales takes one more glance at the house. "Sad, isn't it?" "The two dead guys?" "No, this nice little house. Once upon a time, it was probably a sweet home for a nice family raising kids, watching them grow up and succeed. Know what I mean?" "No," Rosaria says. 5 minutes later, Rosaria's back in her rental car, and she feels like she needs to brief her boss. But first, she needs a cold drink. And as she's driving up the main road in Three Rivers, she spots a McDonald's and pulls in. And then she sees something else, and her Sig Sauer is in her hand, at her side in the car. Parked at the rear of the McDonald's lot, partially hidden by a green dumpster, is a black pickup truck with an extended cab and overhead light rack. Chapter 62. After working for his first jefe, Antonio Garcia no longer believes in Jesus, the Blessed Virgin, the Holy Saints, or nearly anybody else. But he's beginning to reconsider his atheism as his day proceeds. Back here in the McDonald's parking lot, he finds a strong signal for his cell phone, and with dread in his bones, he calls his jefe to tell him how everything has gone wrong. But his boss isn't home. On the phone is one of his lieutenants, a grim, sour little man called Pedro, and Pedro is demanding to know why Antonio is calling, but he won't answer the man's questions. Each day working for the jefe is a balancing act, keeping him happy, watching the rivals in the organization who will stab you in your back, literally, if the opportunity arises. Antonio says, "Look, when will he be back?" Pedro swears and says, "How should I know? All I know is that he had the urge to go visit his wife and do some serious drinking and humping, and now he's gone." Antonio says, "Which wife?" And he's not joking. For like most cartel heads in Mexico, strong men with strong appetites have 3 or 4 wives scattered across the country or in the States. Pedro says, "I think the one in Puerto Vallarta. She's the one that he likes seeing in those dental floss bathing suits." Antonio swivels in his seat to see if any police are in the area. No, just a McDonald's worker, a woman in one of those brown shirts, walking from car to car, holding a brown paper bag. Other than that, clear. He says, "All right, do you have a number for him?" "I do, but you're not getting it unless you tell me why you need it." Antonio swears at Pedro and says, "Look, I'm not getting into some school dispute with you, amigo. It'll be on you when the jefe finds out you've been dicking around." Pedro laughs. "We'll see." And his jefe's man disconnects the call. Okay then. Antonio feels much, much better. Any delay in telling his boss what happened here in this town will be on Pedro. And the delay now gives him time to get a story together. What kind of story? Any kind of story that will leave Antonio innocent of any foul-ups or wrongdoing. A knock on his window makes him jump. He turns, his heavy revolver in his right hand. It's the woman from McDonald's, holding up the paper bag, a dumb grin on her face. "Sir, is this yours? Is this order yours?" Antonio snaps. "Go away!" She shakes her head, still smiling. "Sir, please, I've checked everyone in the parking lot. You're the last one here. It must be yours." He swears, and the woman taps her ear with a free hand. "Sorry, sir, I can't hear that well. What did you say?" Antonio wants to get rid of this bitch as soon as he can, so he lowers the window and starts to talk. And he chokes, with a pistol barrel now crowding his mouth. Chapter 63. After spending a few bucks for a quarter-pounder meal and persuading the manager to lend her a worker's shirt by flashing her army identification and spinning a tale of hunting an ISIS spy, Rosaria is now by the open driver's side window, her Sig Sauer in the man's mouth. He's well-built, flashy-looking, and an empty leather shoulder holster is visible. No real evidence that he was the guy at the house back there, because there must be lots of pickup trucks like this roaming around this part of Texas, but Rosaria has a gut feeling it must be him. He's Hispanic, eyes wide but not afraid, like he's used to having a gun drawn on him. Rosaria feels like one of those zoo workers who has successfully grabbed a deadly and angry rattlesnake by the head, only a slip or two away from being poisoned. She needs to be careful. Rosaria drops the McDonald's bag on the asphalt and says, "Both hands up, touching the roof, now." The man slowly complies, both arms lifting up, shirt and jacket sleeves sliding off, to reveal the same type of prison tattoos as the dead guy on Linden Street, plus some gold jewelry and a heavy-looking watch. Rosaria spots what looks to be a hand cannon on his lap, and with her left hand, reaches in through the open window, picks up the heavy revolver, and tosses it into the bushes behind her, where it makes one hell of a crashing noise. "Now," she says, "I'm coming in to join you. When I come in, you're going to slide right over." Again, moving slowly, she opens the door while removing the pistol from the man's mouth. And in a quick maneuver, she slides her way in, and then quickly pushes her weapon into his side. Now she's in. The pistol is jammed into the man's ribs just below his left armpit. She says, "Hands behind your head, interlock your fingers. I promise this won't take long." The man spits at her. "Puta!" "Really? That's the best you can do?" She shoves the gun in harder. "This won't take long, but you do anything funny, I'll pull the trigger, and before you can blink, your heart is going to turn into mush. Do I have your attention?" The man just nods, eyes lit with hate and fury, and Rosaria stares right back, hoping he can't tell how goddamn scared she is. Chapter 64. A woman! Antonio can't believe it. A woman has a gun on him! No matter how this turns out, he will make sure this woman ends up dead. There's no way in hell that he will let her live, to be in a position to tell someone who will tell someone else, such that the information eventually ends up with the Jefe. Not on your life, or anyone's life. He stares at her and says, "Put me under arrest if you can, and then I want a lawyer." Then another surprise comes to him when she speaks. "Who says I'm police?" she says, jamming her gun harder into his ribs. "I'm looking for information, that's all. I don't care about you, or what you've done, or what you might be doing. A few answers, and then I'll be on my way and you can go on yours." "Go to hell." The woman fumbles for a moment in her pocket, pulls out a cell phone, and her thumb is on the glass screen. "Here's the deal. No talking, no negotiating." He stares, hands behind him, clasped against his head. The bitch doesn't know it, but his fingers aren't interlocked. They're resting plain and open on his head. Now, if he could just slap her suddenly. Women don't like being hit in the face. But she speaks again, interrupting his thoughts. "This is pre-dial to 911. I just press my thumb in a minute or so. This parking lot is going to be full of police officers eager to talk to you. Or you can be stupid and try to hit me or something. And my other finger presses, and you die in this pretty truck." Antonio waits and waits. He can't have her call the police, not with all the sirens in the distance. He also can't have her live. Rosaria says, "Oh, and if I find later you've been lying to me, I won't be happy. I'll find out in a day or a week or a month." She takes the cell phone up, and there's a whir, whir, whir. And she says, "By then, I'll know who you are and who your friends are, dead back at the house, and I'll also know who you work for. You think he'll be impressed if these pictures arrive to him? Showing you being held at gunpoint? By a girl?" Antonio says, "They're dead? All of them?" Rosaria says, Now that's something to say. Define all. What? How many were in the house besides you? 3. 2 are dead, she says. That means 1 is missing. Who's missing? Antonio's thinking things through. All right. He will work this to his advantage. So what if he tells her what has happened? She will give him the facts that he can use later to talk to the Jefe and explain what happened, all to Antonio's benefit. Was there an old man in the house? No. Then someone came in and took him. The bitch asks, Who's the old man? The chicken is gone, Antonio thinks. It was supposed to be easy, a quick exchange. The old man was going to be peacefully turned over to an American who was to say a phrase, and then the 3 of them could go home over the border. Somebody that my boss wanted us to protect. Who is he? We don't know. What, for real? Stupid puta, he thinks. Our Jefe, our boss, if he tells us to guard someone, we guard him. It could be a priest, a child, a farm worker, a billionaire. We don't care. We don't ask. It's a chicken, that's all. To be kept well and alive until the exchange. But he is somebody important. Quite. We were told never to hurt him, or cause him concern, and to protect him. But you were to give him to someone else? Is that true? Yes. We were told it would be peaceful. No need to be alert. No need to be suspicious. But who are you going to turn him over to? Antonio is thinking through even more. Yes, if he reveals the details to this woman, then he can still find a way to use it to his advantage. The deal was supposed to be peaceful. It didn't happen that way. That certainly wasn't Antonio's fault. In fact, the Jefe will be pleased to know that he has survived, to tell what really happened, or at least what happened that would put Antonio into the Jefe's favor. A man, he says. We were to turn him over to a man after he told us a code word. Then we would leave and go back over the border. Antonio moves his hands a few centimeters. Close. He could still slap away the woman's weapon and take charge. Who is the man? Do you know who he is? Antonio shrugs. An American, named Tom Cornwall. Chapter 65. Rosaria keeps her face firm and placid, but she blinks hard at hearing those 2 words. Tom Cornwall. Who's Tom Cornwall? She asks, although she certainly knows who he is. Why were you to hand over this old man to him? The cartel gang member just stares at her with hate and contempt. I told you before, can't you hear? We do our job, that's it. That's it. Rosaria thinks that's the perfect phrase for now. That's it. She draws back quickly, kicks the door open, and is now outside, holding her pistol on the man with one hand, her Galaxy phone with the other. I'm out of here, she says. You were cooperative, so I'm not calling the police, but you better get going. He sits there, slowly lowers his hands, and mutters a long, nasty string of expletives. And Rosaria says, I never knew who my mom was, so that's a waste of breath. Then she backs away from the truck and does her best to move quickly in reverse, keeping an eye on the vehicle. She scrambles inside her rental car and drives out, remembering only 5 miles later that she's still terribly thirsty. Antonio goes to the driver's side, starts up the truck, and then runs into the brush looking for his revolver. He kneels down, scrambling around, scratching his hands, until yes, there it is. He grabs it and then starts back to his truck. Get in and get out, that's all. Then call his Jefe, but only after he's back over the border. Hey! Comes a sharp voice. Standing to either side of his truck are 2 cops, wearing white cowboy hats, neckties, and white shirts, both holding pistols in their hands. Drop the weapon, buddy, drop it, the one on the left says. Antonio smiles, thinks, just like Clint Eastwood, then quickly brings up his heavy revolver. Before he can get a single shot off, he's hammered hard in his chest and falls back, everything going dark in seconds.
Chapter 66. Close to 2 hours after I've driven out of Three Rivers, Texas, I'm just past the city of Victoria, and I've pulled off Highway 59 at some scraggly motel with half of the neon letters on its sign burnt out. And I know when I drive out at dawn, I'll have forgotten this little place of refuge within 10 miles of driving. It's a typical one-story stretch of motel rooms. And in the small office, a chubby young Pakistani man holds a controller in his hands and is playing some sort of shoot-'em-up video game. He pauses the game only twice, once to pass over a registration card and key, and then to take my American dollars. I fill out the card with a fake name, address, make and model of vehicle, and license plate number, and the young man doesn't even give the card a glance before going back to his game. I step out into the thick night air and go to my Wrangler, which is parked in front of the office, and where I could keep a close eye on things. And my older charge is calmly sitting there, slightly wrinkled hands folded in his lap, seatbelt still in place. I get in and drive my Wrangler down to the end of the bumpy parking lot and park in the rear. My headlights pick up a scrawny creature that races into the underbrush. A starving dog or coyote, I can't tell. The room has 2 twin beds, worn-down green carpeting, a small bathroom that smells of bleach, and a television on a low counter, kept in place by a thick chain and combination lock. I drop my bag on the floor, motion to the bathroom. "All yours. Have at it." He nods and goes in, shuts the door, and I hear water running. I sit on the edge of the bed, lower my head into my hands. The shakes begin. A cool, comforting voice tries to tell me, "You didn't go in there to kill. You went in there to get this old man. You went in to save your family. It was bloody, horrible, and awful. And you'll feel guilty for the rest of your life, but what choice did you have?" What choice? I could have gone to the police. I could have gone to my superior officer. I could have gone to the CID. I could have gone to the FBI. But I have no time. No time. The shakes continue. The smell of burnt gunpowder, the yells, grunts, the way the pistol jumped in my hand, the frantic run through the small house. The run to the Wrangler, dragging this old man along with me. I'll never, ever forget it. It's in my memory, my skin and my bones. And it'll be there forever. What choice? I hear the toilet flush, more running water, and then the slight old man comes out into the motel room, looking at me. "Still not talking, huh?" I ask. He doesn't say anything, doesn't even make a gesture. He sits down on the edge of the other sagging bed, his hands on his knees. "How long were you in that house?" No reply. "Who was keeping you there?" Silence. "Why are you so important to someone on the Gulf Coast of Florida?" Quiet. I notice my hand is throbbing deeply, and I can't figure out why, until I remember punching that big tattooed guy twice in the throat while holding an empty metal canister of pepper spray. "Do you know my husband, Tom Cornwall? He's a journalist." Stillness. I shift around on the bed. It's sagging deeply in the middle. I'm thinking I might take a blanket out of the Wrangler and sleep on top of the covers, leave my charge to his own devices. I say, "Why me and why you? I have nothing to do with Texas, Mexico, or drug dealers. No offense if you're Mexican. But the 2 men back at that house didn't look like Mormon missionaries from a small town in Utah. And Tom, I don't think he's ever been to Mexico or Texas. He covers the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Iraq, parts of Africa and Afghanistan." Something whispers to me there, some sort of idle fact. And I try to think it through, and it slips away. "But you're not going to tell me, are you?" I can only hear the drone of the traffic from the nearby interstate. In between our single beds is a scratched and dinged-up nightstand with a lamp and a telephone. There's a drawer underneath, and I slide it open, revealing a Gideon Bible and a very thin phone book. I pull the phone book out and show it to my new friend. "See this?" I ask. "Old-time New York cop once taught me this, long time ago, when things were stretched thin and even retirees in the reserves were being called up. You take a phone book, even a skinny one like this, and you can beat a suspect with it until he's crying and begging for mercy, and for some reason it doesn't leave a bruise. No evidence you were tortured to get information. The old man stares at me with dignity and calmness, like one of those Christian martyrs in the Colosseum kneeling before a hungry lion to meet his fate. I toss the book back into the drawer. Not the way I operate, I say. Before this little misadventure began, I was being investigated for doing something like this to an alleged farmer, all the way over in Afghanistan, ending in his death. I close the drawer hard, making a loud bang in the room. I say, I didn't do it over there, and I'm not about to do it over here.
Chapter 67. Major Bruno Wenner, Executive Officer to Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Denton of the 297th Military Intelligence Battalion at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, is preparing for his 0800 morning meeting with the Colonel when the intercom in his office buzzes. He picks up the phone, and it's Mrs. Bouchard, the Colonel's civilian secretary, and she says, "The Colonel wants to see you right now, and I'm sorry, Bruno, he's in a pissy mood." "Thanks for the heads up, Mrs. B," he replies, before hanging up and grabbing a legal pad, his iPad, and the folder with the Colonel's schedule and other necessary paperwork for the day. The usual morning meeting is set to begin in 19 minutes, he thinks, as he hustles his way to his boss's office. What could be so important? Then a little chill settles around his heart about something he did yesterday for Captain Ted Cooper, one of the intelligence officers assigned to the battalion. What he did wasn't particularly illegal or against Army regulations, but still, the Colonel likes to claim he runs a tight ship, and what Wenner did yesterday could be considered mutiny, even if this is an Army outfit and not the Navy. He goes into Denton's office, gets a sharp grunt as a greeting, and he sits down, carefully balancing the folder, legal pad, and iPad on his lap. Denton is reading a sheet of paper, shaking his head as he does so, and that little cold chill around Wenner's heart starts getting chillier. Denton looks up. "Bruno? Sir? It's the little things that can cripple a unit, that can hurt a commanding officer, don't you agree?" He has no idea what Denton is going to say next, but the safest thing is just to play along. "Certainly, sir. The minor things, the items and information that can slip through the cracks, they often can come back and bite an officer right in the ass, even if he had no knowledge of them, even if they weren't his fault. But because something untoward happened to somebody under his purview, he takes the ultimate responsibility and the ultimate fall." Crap, Wenner thinks. Denton has found out about what he did for Captain Cooper. One of Denton's big commandments for the officers and soldiers in his battalion is staying free of too much debt. And if he ever finds out anyone in his battalion is behind in car payments, mortgage, or credit card bills, he will throw a tantrum and possibly cripple an officer's career. In the overall scheme of things, Denton is right to be concerned, because overdue bills make someone vulnerable to blackmail or extortion. But the way he always goes at it, Captain Cooper had earlier come to him, pleading for help to stave off an imminent car repossession, and Wenner had lent him the necessary funds, with the typical tearful promise to make it all good with the next pay period. But Denton will be ripshit if he knows Wenner did this behind his back. Wenner feels like his heart is now encased in a heavy block of ice. Denton picks up the offending sheet of paper. "It's like this, Bruno. I don't like being surprised by unexpected developments." "Sir?" is all he can come up with. Denton purses his lips and says, "I have information here concerning our missing Captain Amy Cornwall." "Sir," he says again. But this time the word is full of relief and relaxation. So this will have nothing to do with his loan to Captain Cooper. "Tell me the latest you know about her location." Wenner goes to his paperwork. "Yesterday, she was at a Bank of America ATM in Kennedy, Texas at 6:03 p.m. EST, where she withdrew $400. Prior to that, she took part in a river rescue near a bridge on US 59. The Jeep Wrangler she was driving was bearing stolen license plates. Earlier, you recall her assault on the Tennessee State Trooper?" Wenner pauses. He certainly recalls it well, for when he told the Colonel that bit of nasty news yesterday, Denton exploded, yelling, face red, hand pounding the desk, and then sweeping paper and folders to the floor. "Go on," Denton says. That's all I have now, sir. CID out of Quantico is still working to find her. I've got a good working relationship with one of their XOs over there. Denton rubs at his eyes. Then all they need is to go online and check the news out of Texas. Sir? Wenner feels a little worm of worry drop in for a visit. Something bad has happened in Texas. Something bad enough to make the news. 2 Mexican nationals were shot and killed in Three Rivers, a town adjacent to Kennedy, Denton says, speaking in a low and surprisingly calm voice. There was no immediate identification of the shooter, but a black Jeep Wrangler was seen leaving the area. Wenner can't help himself. Shit. Denton goes on. So far, our intelligence officer's possible involvement in this horror show hasn't made the news. But when and if it does, there'll be a hammer coming down on the 297th Military Intelligence Battalion that will make the Abu Ghraib prison scandal look like a fraternity prank gone awry. Do you understand? I'll be gone, you'll be gone, and probably every line officer in the unit. The investigation into that Afghan prisoner Cornwall supposedly killed? Forget it. The American media don't care about one more dead Afghan. He pauses. But have something violent happen in this country by what appears to be a rogue American military officer brutally killing 2 innocent Mexican nationals? Holy God! The media, the bloggers, the columnists, they'll camp out at the base's gates until I'm crucified, and you'll be right there next to me. It'll be more than a story. It'll be a sociological event representing the evil American military empire, the vicious nature of our intelligence services, blah, blah, blah. All because of one bitch who's gone crazy. Wenner doesn't know what to say, so he says nothing. He knows he should probably stand up for Captain Cornwall. But this is neither the time nor the place. Not with his commanding officer so spun up. Denton asks, Have I ever told you about my Uncle Willard? Say what? Wenner thinks. No, sir. He was a 19-year-old draftee sent to Vietnam, assigned to the 23rd Infantry Division, the Americal Division. Oh? Yeah, the one with the platoon that committed the My Lai massacre. Uncle Willard didn't take part in that, thank God. But he got there a year later. Terrible time. The policy back then was that troops and officers were rotated out after a year's service, which meant no unit cohesion. And let's say you're a poor kid. You've got a month left in country, and some hard-charging fresh lieutenant comes in and starts risking your life and the lives of your buddies for stupid missions. What do you do then? I'm not sure, sir, Wenner says. Yeah, fragging. You know the term? Ah. Denton says, You got a green lieutenant who's about to get you and others killed. He goes into a latrine. Somebody tosses in a fragmentation grenade. Boom. The official story is that he was hit by a VC mortar round, or the latrine blew up because of a methane gas buildup. But the new LT who came in will no longer be a problem, as brutal as it is. And his replacement will catch the news of what happened to his predecessor and will act accordingly. Denton picks up the piece of paper he had been reading from and crushes it in a hand, tosses it in a nearby black wastebasket. The crumpled-up piece of paper hits the rim and falls to the carpet. He says, Fragging. A brutal method to be sure, but it solved the problem. Now we have the problem of Captain Cornwall, whose desertion and actions are threatening you, me, this unit, and the Army. He pauses. It makes you think. Dream, actually, that a troubled officer like that can face the same discipline. Wenner can't believe what he's hearing. Sir, really, Denton holds up a hand. Dismissed. Sir. Wenner gets up, and Denton says, I know who you are, Bruno, and I know your reputation in this unit. You're a fixer. He just nods. Denton says one more thing, like he's repeating something heard earlier. Fix this, he says. Fix it now. Chapter 68. Benito Zamora is from Nogales in Sonora, just across the border from Arizona. He's always worked with tools in his hands, having started out working for his uncle at one of the local trucking companies, doing all sorts of maintenance. He knows he's considered a simple man with simple talents, which is fine, because it has led him to his latest job, working for a business in Florida. The climate is wonderful, the pay is superb, but he's under no illusions about the men he works for and has worked for in the years since his uncle's trucking firm went bankrupt. He maintains a strict focus, keeps his mouth shut, and never gossips or talks about his work. This morning he's in a small cement-lined room in the basement of a new hotel that is under construction, and is accompanied by one of the young, hard men who also work here. Inside the room is an Anglo male who has a bandaged arm and a sweet-looking blonde girl Benito assumes is his daughter. He's been told to fix a toilet in this room, and with a tool belt around his ample waist and a toolbox in his calloused right hand, he goes to work. He won't look at the two Anglos. That will gain him nothing, though he will say a prayer for their souls when he leaves here and goes to the little room that he has been gifted to live in while working here. He has nothing against Americans, although he doesn't like their arrogance and how they blame his country for the drug trade, though without their own appetites, the drug traffic would collapse in a month. Benito also remembers a phrase his local priest had said over and over again. Poor Mexico, so far from God, so close to the United States. The priest was a good man, teaching classes at night about economics and politics, and he took particular interest in Benito, telling him that he shared the same name as Benito Juarez, a past president of Mexico and one of its greatest leaders, as well as a child of Zapotec peasants. He taught Benito and others to have pride in their poor nation, to have hopes for its future, and their neighborhood dearly missed the priest after the army came in one night and took him away forever. He lays out his tools, gets to work, uses some rags to mop up some of the leaking water. It looks like a simple repair job, and Benito should be out of here in a few minutes. He accidentally looks towards the two beds. The Anglo male is sitting on a bed, his back against the wall, his face puffy and red, looking like a defeated man. The blonde girl is cute, and Benito feels a sharp pang, remembering his own little girl, Gabriela. Oh, such a black-haired beauty. And he has to pause for a moment, remembering the year after she graduated from high school, how she went to work for a cousin in Ciudad Juarez, across the river from El Paso, Texas. She worked as a restaurant manager, was young, beautiful, with her whole life ahead of her. He wipes at his eyes. One night she went out with some friends, driving a car across the border as a favor for someone. The car was part of a mule effort, smuggling cocaine across to the United States, and the car passed through the border checkpoints without any problem. The real problem came when the car was to be delivered to some sort of dealer in El Paso, but ended up being seized by his rivals. The drugs were taken, the car was driven into the desert, and young, sweet Gabriela and her 3 friends were shot in the car and burnt. "Hey!" comes a little girl's voice. "Hey, mister!" He ignores the girl's voice. The toilet seems to have shifted on its base, which has led to leaking and a backup, and with a soft shove from his shoulder, the toilet returns to the proper place. "Mister, please, look at me. Come on, look at me." Benito doesn't want to look, but the pleading tone of the girl's voice makes him turn his head. The cute Anglo blonde is standing straight up on her tiptoes, arms stretched out, and then she does a perfect cartwheel on the cement floor. She stands, smiling, arms back straight up. "Did you see? Did you?" Benito nods and turns away, his eyes filling with tears. He doesn't want to think of what will happen to this sweetie at some point. Her father sitting on the edge of the bed now, a dead look on his face. Well, Benito thinks he is here because of something he has done. He is the guilty one. The little girl? She is an innocent. "Look, please, look again." And damn it, he does look again, and even the hard man standing guard looks, glancing up from his cell phone where he's been playing some game, and the girl spins out again in a cartwheel, and her foot slips, and she falls in a tumble. She screeches, and her father comes down and checks her, and she cries out for a moment and says, "It's okay, Daddy, it's okay, I'm fine." He picks her up and gives her a hard, squeezing hug, and Benito's hands shake as he gathers up his tools and nods to the other man. "I'm finished," he says. The hard man goes to the door, unlocks it, and Benito follows behind him and keeps on walking, for he never wants to see that man and his daughter ever again. The air in the room is still stuffy and smells lousy, but Tom doesn't care. His little girl is safe, she's with him, and that's all that counts. He says, "You okay?" She nods and pulls away. "I am, you can put me down now." He gently puts her on the bed. Her face is dirty where she's cried, and her pretty nose has dripped snot, but she's smiling. "Did you do it, Daddy? Did you?" From under his shirt, he pulls out what he had seen earlier, what he had grabbed from the Hispanic man's toolbox. A wooden-handled cutting tool used for linoleum, with a curved, razor-sharp blade. With one arm, he hugs his little girl. "Thanks to you, I did." "What now?" she asks, wiping her nose with her hand. "You know how you wanted Mommy to kill them?" "Yes." Tom examines the blade again. "I'm not going to wait."
Chapter 69. Following another bit of thievery this morning, taking Texas license plates from a dented white Subaru wagon and putting them on my Wrangler, my new best friend and I stopped for a quick drive-through meal from McDonald's. He still hasn't said a word. I tell him what I'm going to have for breakfast, coffee, OJ, and Egg McMuffin, and he just shrugs. So I double the order. That is our morning meal. Following directions from a helpful senior citizen out for his morning walk, we're on North Main Street, pulling up to the Victoria Public Library. The area around the squat, bare concrete building has small homes and one-story businesses with lots of trees. I park my Wrangler in a nearby parking lot, hiding it from the main street, and after shutting off the engine, I give the old man a good long look. I say, "So, we have a situation, you and I. I need to spend some time in the library doing research, but I can't leave you here alone, so you're coming with me." He doesn't say anything, but his eyes look intelligent, so I'm sure he's understanding what I'm saying. I say, "I'll be as quick as I can, but you've got to be at my side. I can't have you running away while I'm in the library. You see," my voice catches for a moment, but just a moment. "Somebody has taken my husband and my daughter, and to get them free, I need you as a trade, and we're going to do that in Florida. But don't try to run away. Back at Three Rivers, I killed 2 men to get you. Trust me when I say I'm not going to let you run away." He just looks at me. I reach for the door. "If you try to run away, I won't kill you, but I'll break your arm, and you'll be hurting all the way to Florida." Getting to a computer terminal at the nice library takes some work on my part, since they require a library card and PIN to get access to a computer, but some sweet talking and showing my armed forces identification card persuades the cheerful young lady librarian with a strong Texas accent and black hair to let me in. She's a bit overweight, but wears it proudly, with tight black slacks and a bright red blouse. God, I love the South. I grew up in chilly Maine, and I long ago gave up the soft bigotry most Northerners have for those living below the Mason-Dixon line, for I found most of them unerringly charming, polite, and in the Army, stone-cold killers. I sit down at one of the terminals and make sure my companion is sitting behind me. "You know," I tell him, "I can't keep on saying, 'Hey, you,' when I'm talking to you." Of course, he says nothing. "You don't look like him, but you have the charm of an older Cary Grant," I say. "So I shall call you Archie. Archie, stay put while I get to work." I dig in and decide to start where my destination is going to be. Beachside, Florida. I've never heard of the town, and as I start Googling my way hither and yon, I learn a lot. It's a very new town, a planned community for retirees, for budget travelers, and for corporate retreats. I get a map of the streets and arrange to have it printed out at a nearby printer. The population is about 3,000 or so, and it has no police department. Interesting. It has a top-of-the-line full-time fire department, But any law enforcement requirements are fulfilled by the Walton County Sheriff's Department. So how and why did this little town spring up on the Gulf Coast of Florida? There's not much about its history or construction, but I do find a throwaway line in an old story that makes me sit back and swallow hard. The place was mostly financed by a bank in Mexico. First Republic Global Bank, N.A., based in Guadalajara. The same bank that owns the Learjet that took away Tom and Denise. I let my fingers float across the keyboard, look to my rear, and Archie is sitting there, quiet and calm. Time for a gamble, I say. And I go to Gmail and sign into my personal email account to see what information might be waiting for me. And also to do something else dangerous, but necessary. Good God, look at all those unread messages that have piled up in the past few days. With a good chunk from Major Bruno Wenner, pleading and then demanding to know where I am and what's going on. If Wenner is using my personal email account in addition to my standard Army account, he and Colonel Denton must be really going berserk. Then there's the regular email mishmash of spam, a couple of messages from old friends of mine in the service, and some reminders from Amazon and Staples, but no messages from Tom or Denise. I check out Archie again. A gamble. You never know how and where it's going to pay off. Archie doesn't look away, and I shake my head and say, just so you know, I'm one to keep my promises, to keep my oath. No matter the pressure, no matter the temptations, when I was in college, my roommate Marcia cheated on her boyfriend. She asked me to keep that secret. Save for you now, I've never told anyone, even my husband, even my best friends in the service. My throat thickens. I'm about to violate a promise I made to my husband a long time ago. I've been tempted here and there to break that promise, but now, well, it's an emergency. I have to do it. You understand? I have to do it. I turn back to the keyboard, stop wasting time with Archie. I minimize the open screen that has my Gmail account, get back to work. Within a few minutes, I locate Tom's cloud account in Google. I feel sick at what I'm doing. For a long time, I've known his login data to get access to his cloud storage. As an intelligence officer, how could I not? But I've never, ever gone into it. When we were first dating, Tom said to me, "Hon, I know how talented you are in lots of ways, but especially in the Army. But Amy, please, my work has a lot of sources and confidential information in it. Please don't ever try to find out what I'm doing. All right?" And of course, I promised to do that. And now I am breaking that promise. At some point, I hope he will forgive me. Tom's office at home is a mess of papers, folders, books, and piles of old newspapers and clippings. But I'm pleased to see he's not a slob on the internet. I start going through his files, looking at his notes and using a function that allows me to see the most recent information. I'm stunned at how quickly I find what I'm looking for. And what it means. "Oh, Tom," I whisper. "You damn fool." I can't believe what I'm seeing there, in plain text on a plain screen. But it's apparent, and thorough, and deadly stupid. Now I know why he was picked up, and my Denise as well. And although I don't know the identity of the man behind me, I know his background as well. Oh, Tom. I shake my head in disgust and turn around to leave. Behind me is an empty chair. Archie is gone.
Chapter 70. At the George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston, Warrant Officer Rosaria Vasquez is quickly walking to the service kiosk for Hertz, when a familiar man in civilian clothes steps out from a news shop and says, "A minute, Vasquez." She halts in her tracks, stunned. Her boss, Senior Warrant Officer Fred McCarthy, who should be back at Quantico in Virginia, is here, deep in the heart of Texas. Sir? This way, he says, walking to a food court, where he takes a chair and gestures her to sit down. She takes the chair and says, Is this where you're going to tell me why I'm in Houston? You want coffee or something? He asks. His usually tanned and fit face looks pale and anxious, and as always he's wearing a dark gray suit that doesn't fit him well. Senior Warrant Officer McCarthy is tall and loose-limbed, and Rosaria doubts that even the best tailor from Hong Kong or London could ever make a suit fit him. She says, No, I don't want coffee. I want to know what the hell is going on. You first, Vasquez, he says. What's the latest on the Three Rivers shootings? Rosaria really doesn't need her notebook, but pulls it out for appearance's sake. Shooting broke out at a rental residence on Linden Street. 2 Mexican nationals killed. A person, male or female, not sure, was seen fleeing the residence, dragging an older gentleman along. That person's identity is also unknown. A black Jeep Wrangler was seen leaving the area shortly thereafter. No confirmation of how many people were inside. And the license plate wasn't noted either. Forensics? Too soon, she says. It's a small but professional department, but even a big-town department would have a challenge handling 3 shootings in one afternoon. 3? Who was the third one? She turns over a page. Approximately 30 minutes after the first shootings, Texas State Police responding to the scene found a tricked-out black Ford pickup truck with extended cab that had earlier been seen at the Linden Street residence. The truck was seen at a nearby McDonald's restaurant. The driver of the truck, armed with a revolver, was spotted nearby. He refused to drop his weapon. He was killed in a shootout. Another Mexican national? He asks. Rosaria says, That's right. McCarthy rubs at his large chin. Oh boy, the nearest Mexican consulate is going to have their hands full. Besides the fact that Captain Cornwall drives a Jeep Wrangler and was seen earlier in the next town, is there any specific, credible evidence linking her to these 2 shootings? Rosaria has thought this through again and again, thinking of what she learned from the third gunman. That the older man kept there was to be turned over to American journalist Tom Cornwall when he arrived. And instead of journalist Cornwall arriving, apparently his wife did, taking the man and killing 2 in the process. Rosaria is convinced that's what happened. As to why, no idea. But her boss has asked her for specific, credible evidence linking the missing captain to the shootings. And Rosaria can always say later that she didn't believe a bulked-up gangbanger armed with one big-ass revolver to be credible, which was why she never mentioned meeting him. Thin ice, indeed, but she's been there before. Nothing that I've heard from the police, she says. You got a good contact with the Three Rivers police? Sergeant Morales' business card is safely secured in her travel bag. I do. Good. He rubs at his massive chin and says, We have good intelligence that she's heading east, alone or with someone we don't know. But she's definitely heading east, most likely on Highway 59, coming from either Three Rivers or Kennedy. That's why you were ordered to Houston. Where did you get this information from, boss? From a good source. She doesn't like the sound of that. Sir, a good source, he repeats. That's all you're getting. So you're going to get into a rental car and start heading west on 59. Once we get better information where she is or where she's going, you'll be in a position to intercept. The din and movement of people around her in this busy terminal gradually fades away until all she can see and hear is the senior warrant officer sitting in front of her. On the table, there's a crumpled napkin at his elbow and 2 half-circle rings from where earlier travelers deposited their drinks. By myself? She asks. With no backup? He says, You can hook up with any local law enforcement if needed. In this state, they'll trip over themselves trying to help the army. She literally cannot believe what she's hearing. Sir, she assaulted a state trooper in Tennessee. She's a good suspect for a kidnapping and a double homicide. She's a deserter. And you want me to go after her? By myself? He nods, doesn't say anything. It doesn't make sense, she says, her voice rising. McCarthy's tired eyes flicker. It might not make sense to you, Vasquez, but to certain higher-ups in the army it makes perfect sense. So do your job. Something else comes to her quickly, and she's nauseated at the realization. Boss, you could have told me all of this over the phone, by text or email. Why did you waste your time coming to Texas? McCarthy says, almost in a whisper, because it makes sense, that's why. It feels like a passenger ambling by has just hit her between the shoulder blades with a sledgehammer. Higher-ups and the Army have just made a determination this is one horrible case and a potential national embarrassment, and that someone has to be sacrificed to either solve the case or make it go away. And her superior has flown here to tell her face to face. So there's no paper or email trail, no evidence, nothing save her word against his. Yes, sir, she says quietly. I'll do my job. McCarthy looks relieved as he stands up. Good. I'll be in touch with any additional information that comes my way. He walks away, and in a very few seconds is lost in the moving and shifting lines of travelers passing through this fine airport on this fine day. Rosaria stands up, starts going in the direction of the Hertz terminal, and she goes 3 steps and starts weeping, goes 3 more, before she realizes why she's crying. She's just lost her family.
Chapter 71. With Archie's disappearance, I try not to panic. So what do? I panic. I leap away from the chair in front of the computer terminal and race out to the center part of the library. A few quiet patrons are there, but there's no well-dressed man with white hair and a beard. Damn! I head outside, figuring if he's still in the building, I have a chance of going back and finding him in there. And I slam through the door and nearly run over a young mom and her 2 young boys, and she yells a very well-deserved curse at me as I step out on North Main Street, frantically looking up and down the sidewalks. Nobody. I run to the shaded parking lot, hoping that Archie got bored and decided to return to my Jeep. I skid up next to the Wrangler. The interior is cluttered and filthy, but no Archie. Damn it again. I look around the parking lot, duck and look under the vehicles, trot over to the rear of the library. I disturb a few pigeons and that's it. You've lost him, comes the nagging voice. You've lost the key to freeing your family, and they're going to die because of you. I run back to the library.
Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez is driving as fast as she can in downtown Victoria, Texas, looking for the library. About 15 minutes ago, she got a quick and very frantic phone call from Senior Warrant Officer McCarthy. Nailed her, he said. She's using a computer at the city library in Victoria, Texas. Address is 302 North Main Street. Got it, she replied, and hung up. What else was there to say? The GPS on a Hertz vehicle is working like a charm. Up ahead is the square cement library, plopped right down in what looks to be a sparsely populated residential and light business district. Despite all that's going on, Rosaria gets a warm feeling at seeing a public library. This one has a nice sign out front. The lined concrete looks warm and inviting, because there are books inside, no doubt, and the lawn is bright green and closely trimmed. In her troubled years growing up, it was never certain if there was going to be food in the house, or if your foster sisters would steal your stuff, or if your foster father would stare at you at bedtime. But one thing was certain. There would always be a building nearby that would take you in and would let you read as many books as you wanted, all for free. Rosaria spends less than 2 minutes circling the library and then drives into its nearby parking lot. Nearly slams on the brakes. A black Jeep Wrangler, pulled into a space under the shade of a tree. Hidden from the street and backed in so someone could drive out quickly. Rosaria slowly drives past the Jeep. It's empty. She reaches for her leather bag, pulls out her Sig Sauer, lays it across her lap. What now? Phone the cops? ID herself as an Army CID investigator and ask for interagency assistance? Would they speedily respond or would they take their time, checking her out? Rosaria circles around and returns to the Wrangler. She could park in front of it, prevent it from leaving. She checks the license plates and sees they're from Texas. So, stolen or legit? And if she were blocking a legit citizen, that could cause a stink, which would cause attention. And she doesn't need attention now. Rosaria pulls into an empty spot, steps out with her pistol at her side. What she needs is to go into that library and find her AWOL officer. Now.
This is the end of CD 5. The book continues on CD 6. CD 6.
Chapter 72. Slightly out of breath, I go up to the helpful young lady at the front desk and say, "Have you seen my grandfather?" She looks up from her computer terminal. "Who?" "The older man I came in with," I say, and hold out my hand. "About this tall, white beard and hair, doesn't talk, has on a nice suit." She shakes her head. "No, but I've been pretty busy these past few minutes. He might have slipped out without me seeing. Is everything okay?" I look around at the tall book stacks and the doors marking study areas or small conference rooms. "No, not really," I say. "He easily gets confused. I'm going to take a look around the stacks. If you see him, could you just try to keep him here at your desk? Honest, he's very gentle." My cooperative librarian says, "Should I call the police, ma'am?" Hell no, is what I think. "Not yet," I say, and then I walk fast into the areas near the closest bookcases.
Rosaria steps into the air-conditioned library and takes an appreciative sniff of the smell of books. Nothing like it in the world. Before she goes up to the main desk, she slides her small Sig Sauer into the right pocket of her jacket, checking at her hip to make sure she has her handcuffs. When she gets to the desk, a sweet, young, heavy-set lady steps up from her terminal and says, "Can I help you?" She displays her gold shield and identification card. "Special Agent Rosaria Vasquez," she says. "I'm looking for—" The librarian smiles. "Oh, your friend must have called you then, am I right?" Rosaria is still holding on to her IDs. "My friend?" "Sure," the librarian says. "I forgot her name, but she came in a while ago with her grandfather, quiet old man, and asked if she could use one of the computers. They're reserved for residents of Victoria, but she showed me that special ID, the one with the funny green letters." She put away her identification. "Her Armed Forces identification card. That's the one!" Rosaria takes in the open areas and the book stacks. "Do you know where she is?" "Oh, out back there somewhere," the librarian says. "She was looking for her grandfather. I guess he wandered off. She must have called you to come in and help, right?" Rosaria slides her hand into the coat pocket holding her firearm. "You could say that. Just so I know how to help her, are there any other exits from this building?" "This is the main one," she says. "There's a fire door on the other side, but you can't go through there. If you do, it'll set off one hell of a ruckus." "Thanks," she says. The librarian asks, "If your friend comes back, should I tell her you're here?" "No worries," Rosaria says. "I'm sure I'll catch up with her on my own." I've gone up and down 4 long lengths of bookshelves and have only come across a young girl splayed out on the floor reading a Harry Potter book. I can't tell which one it is. I step over her long legs and have a pang of fear, thinking about Denise. When I get to a point where I can look back at the main door in the lobby, I freeze. A woman is talking to the cheerful and helpful young lady at the main desk. The woman has on plain black slacks, black jacket, white blouse. She has a dull-looking leather bag over one arm, and she's got a serious look on her face as she talks. I wish I could read lips so I knew what she is saying. But whatever she's saying, her entire presence and demeanor say one thing to me. Cop. I duck back into the stacks. Rosaria turns and freezes. A shape has just moved back into the near stacks. It looked like an adult. Hard to tell if it was a man or woman, but the shape moved pretty fast, like it didn't want to be spotted. "Thanks, ma'am," she says to the librarian, and steps quickly away from the curved desk. Her hand is still gripping her Sig Sauer, and she makes another quick check at her waist, making sure her handcuffs are ready for use. If she's very, very lucky, she will end this in a few minutes. I'm moving as fast as I can, slipping from one set of stacks to another. I can sense I'm being tracked, and there's not much I can do.
The cop out there has my trail here among the volumes depicting civilized life, and I'm running out of places to hide. At least there are no civilians back here to get in the way. And where the hell is Archie? I feel like I'm making a house out of a deck of cards, and one by one the cards are slipping away. I come to a wall, see a small alcove with books and book cards, and I turn. The shadow is coming closer. Damn! If I duck to the left or to the right, I'll be spotted. I head to the alcove.
Rosaria sees movement. She's getting closer. This will end now, she thinks. It will end now, and she will prove to her boss and anybody else out there that she can do a job, no matter how abandoned and alone she is. The shadow and shape flick before her. She senses she's coming to a corner of the building, and Captain Cornwall will be trapped. And then it will be done. She turns around the end of one full bookcase and finds no one there. What the hell? She steps closer. Wait, there's an alcove with 3 book carts shoved in, the ones used to return books to the shelves. They're not in a line. They've been moved around like they're hiding something. She lifts up her 6 hour. Captain Cornwall? Are you there? Please come out with your hands showing. No answer. She hears a murmur of the librarian talking to someone way behind her. Captain Cornwall? She slowly moves forward, hugging the wall, knowing Cornwall has taken down a Tennessee state trooper and has probably killed 2 Mexican drug cartel members, and she's not taking any chances by leaving herself exposed. Then, Rosaria grabs the end of one book cart, quickly pulls it out, steps into the alcove. Empty. Nothing here but books. Damn! She steps out of the alcove and starts back to the stacks, when something heavy slams into her and drives her into the floor.
Chapter 73. Luckily, the bookcases here are securely bolted to the concrete floor so they don't move as I climb up on top of them, and they even stay in place with my weight when the armed woman calling out my name passes underneath me. I roll over and hit her right on the shoulders, and she drops with a surprised oof. I grab a shoulder, roll her over, and shove the muzzle end of my .357 Ruger up against her chin. Her eyes widen, and she stares up at me as I shift position and kneel on her chest, locate her pistol, and shove it into my coat. A quick frisk, and I come away with her handcuffs. I shove the muzzle in another 1/4 inch and whisper, "Hands above your head right now." The woman does as she's told. I'm both grateful and surprised. I was expecting some resistance, but the day still isn't over. I snap the handcuffs securely on her wrists, stand up, and haul her up as well. My revolver is now pressed against her sternum, and I whisper again, "We're going to have a 60-second talk. If you murmur, yell, struggle, I'll kill you, all right? I will pull this trigger, and the center of your chest will be turned into a bloody mess." I push her into the alcove, shove her to her butt, and kneel back into her, my revolver back under her chin. "Talk," I say. "Don't waste my time."
Rosaria is both shocked and stunned that this woman, a bookworm intelligence officer, has managed to surprise, overwhelm, disarm, and secure her in just a matter of seconds. And then a cold clarity comes to her. This bookworm also successfully passed ranger training. Her initial thought was stupid. The metal of the revolver muzzle is harsh and cold under her chin, and Captain Amy Cornwall bears little resemblance to her official photo, sitting in front of an American flag in full dress uniform, smiling confidently into the camera's lens. Cornwall's hair is disheveled, her eyes are swollen and red-rimmed, and she smells of little sleep, bad food, and long hours on the road. "Talk," she orders. Rosaria keeps quiet. Maybe somebody out there heard something. Maybe a library worker or even an off-duty cop might walk by. The muzzle is shoved harder. "Talk! You know my name. I don't know yours. Doesn't seem fair, does it?" The steel barrel is twisted into her skin. "Who are you? Army? FBI?" Rosaria doesn't like the woman's look or her tone of voice. "Warrant Officer Vasquez, CID Special Agent, out of Quantico." That gets Cornwall's attention. Her eyes sharpen, and she says, "Why are you after me?" Rosaria says, "You're absent without leave, Captain." Cornwall has a sharp, bitter laugh. AWOL? For real? I've been gone from base less than 3 days, and I got a CID officer from Virginia tracking me in Texas? That's crap. Why are you after me? Rosaria's not sure what she can say, so she tries the truth. Orders. From whom? My boss, she says. Who else? And what has he told you? Rosaria doesn't want to say any more, but Cornwall checks her watch. About 30 seconds left. Make your time count. And then in this small alcove, in an out-of-the-way library in the middle of Texas, so far away from home and the army, Rosaria makes a decision. My boss has hardly told me anything, she says. Besides what I've learned, they've been tracking your movements. Of course they have, she says. Hell, I made an ATM withdrawal yesterday, stayed logged in my private email account here, practically sent up a goddamn flare. Rosaria thinks that through. You did that knowing you'd be tracked? That's right, she says. I got a crew following me already. I wanted to know who else is dogging me, and now I know. Civilians and military. I'm surprised you guys haven't bumped into each other yet. Now, you said you've learned stuff on your own. Like what? A hesitation. And then Rosaria goes all out. I know you hit a house yesterday in Three Rivers. I know you took someone from there. And I also know you shot and killed 2 men. She was hoping that last bit of news would shock Cornwall. But her expression doesn't change. They were bad men, she says. I've been fighting bad men for most of my adult life. I really don't care. Rosaria says, maybe you'll care about this. The man being held at that house, the one you took, he was supposed to be turned over to your husband, Tom Cornwall. Now there's a shocked look on the army captain's face. Even though she's handcuffed and has a revolver pointed at her, Rosaria feels a sense of satisfaction at doing that.
Chapter 74. This damn CID officer has just confirmed something I found out less than 30 minutes ago. That my Tom has been involved in some very dark and dangerous work. I try not to show my shock or dismay, and I say, "How do you know about my husband?" "Is it true?" "How do you know that?" I say, poking her once more with my Ruger. She says, "Like I said, I've found some information on my own." "What else?" "That's all you're getting." Her voice is now growing defiant. "Captain Cornwall, what the hell is going on? That man you kidnapped, who is he? Why did your husband need him?" I decide we're done. I push her against her chest, shove her back deeper into the alcove, and I grab her cuffed arms, pull them up, and loop them over a valve fitting for a sprinkler pipe. She squirms and doesn't say anything from the sudden shift in position and the strain that's on her arms. I'm impressed. I hold the revolver between her eyes, touching her forehead, her thick hair above her shoulders. I'll say this low and slow, so there's no misunderstanding. And for emphasis' sake, I tap the cold steel on her olive skin. I'm headed out of here. If you follow me, if you try to track me, interfere in any way with what I'm doing, I will shoot you dead. Another brief tap to her moist forehead. If I even get the slightest hint that you might be out there trying to find me, I'll kill you. And if somewhere along the way, before I get to where I'm going, if I'm arrested or stopped, I will blame it on you. And when I get out of prison, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, I'll find you and shoot you dead. Do we have an understanding? The CID officer calmly says, "You're doing this for your family, aren't you? They're in some sort of trouble. Your husband, Tom, he was working on a story that got the wrong attention. That's why you're doing this." I'm not going to give her the benefit of an answer. I tap her forehead again, conscious that I'm in a city library, and at any point an innocent young library volunteer might stop by and find this disturbing scene. Do we have an understanding? Yes, she says. But one other thing. Make it quick. No hesitation on her part. I want to help you.
Rosaria sees the surprise in the woman's eyes and stays on message. This case, investigation, whatever it is I'm doing, it's been nuts from the start. I shouldn't be investigating an AWOL officer, not when you've been absent for just a couple of days, and my boss, he's providing intelligence about you and your movements that someone's feeding him. I don't like it. I don't like it all. Welcome to my world, Cornwall says. She squirms, tries to ease the pain in her stretched arms, fails. I want to help. I can't explain it, but you're doing something beyond regulations, beyond the law. You're trying to save your family. Cornwall checks her watch. Rosaria says, "Give me your cell phone number, some way of communicating with you, and I'll tip you off." You intent on committing career suicide? Despite having her hands cuffed and being threatened with a revolver, Rosaria almost laughs. Career suicide? What career do you think I'm going to have when this is over, one way or the other? The captain checks her watch one more time, seems to come to a decision. Warrant officer. That's the best offer I've had in days. If it's a true offer. She pauses. But in the end, I don't know you. I can't trust you. I can't trust anyone. She moves her hand, and Rosaria starts to cry out in fear when a wad of rolled-up tissue is shoved into her mouth.
I move quickly away from the cuffed CID officer and shove a couple of book carts in place to conceal her, and then I slip the revolver into my bag and retrace my steps back through the library. In intelligence work, sometimes information comes in bits and pieces, dribs and drabs, and sometimes information flies out at you like water coming from a fire hose. I've just been soaked with lots of information, but I need to stick to my primary goal, my primary mission. And I don't know how I'm going to pull it off with a CID officer bound back there who's eventually going to get discovered. What to do? Another sweep of the library, of course. And then another, wider sweep outside because I've got to get my hands on Archie right now, if not sooner. And if cops roll in as I'm leaving, and I don't have Archie, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm heading back to the main desk area, hoping that the polite and cheerful woman back there has some information for me, and I approach two doors. One marked men, and the other marked women, and I feel like I've just lost 100 pounds of weight on my shoulders. For Archie is placidly standing in front of the door marked men. I roughly grab his upper arm and we start heading out, and I whisper in his ear, "The next time you have to make a bathroom visit, let me know. Even if you have to tap me on my shoulder and play charades, you pull something like this again, you'll be going to Florida with 2 broken arms, not 1. He doesn't say a word, of course, but he puts up no resistance as we head out of the library. The woman at the main desk calls out cheerfully, "Oh, you found your grandfather! Lucky you!" "You know it," I say, as we quickly stroll past her and the curved desk. She says, "Did your friend find you? The other Army officer?" We're at the doors. "No, I'm afraid she didn't," I say. 1 more foot to go and we're free. The librarian tries to have the last word. "Oh, too bad. Are you sure you can't stay here until she shows up?" I turn and smile. I think the poor dear got herself lost back there.
Chapter 75. In a small meeting room at the Victoria Public Library, Rosaria Vasquez rubs one more time at her wrists, where her own handcuffs had dug into her flesh during the long minutes when she waited to be rescued. Truth is, though, it didn't take that long, for while she couldn't say anything with her mouth gagged, her legs were free, and she kicked and kicked until the book carts in front of her fell, and a library worker came over to check out just what in God's name was making all that noise. Before her is Paul Santiago, a detective from the Victoria Police Department's Assault Crimes Unit, and he's scratching at the side of his bald head with a pen as he tries to make sense of what he has just encountered here with Rosaria and Captain Cornwall. A small notebook is open on the table in front of him. "I'm sorry if I sound confused," he says, "but tell me again why you were here in Victoria?" She rubs at her wrists, but keeps them below the table, out of view of the detective so he can't see. Like I said before, I was tracking Captain Amy Cornwall. I'd received information that she was in this facility. Information from whom? My boss at our base in Quantico, Virginia. And you didn't think to contact us first? No. Why? You know why, she says. The case was moving quickly. I didn't have time to contact you or to contact anyone else. And what kind of case is this? A nightmare case that could kill me or kill my career, she thinks. Captain Cornwall is AWOL, absent without leave. So that's why you came in the library by yourself, because you were concerned that she might leave the premises and that you would lose her trail. Correct. He scratches at the side of his head again. He has a thick brown mustache and brown eyes that are sharp and to the point. All by yourself. Rosaria says, repeating yourself doesn't change the facts. Yeah, you're right, he says. Tell me this, Miss Special Agent Vasquez, please. He doesn't smile or react, just says, tell me this, Special Agent Vasquez. It seems that your Captain Amy Cornwall is considered a suspect in a double homicide yesterday afternoon in Three Rivers. Is that true? Rosaria stops rubbing her wrists. I'm not aware of that information. Really? Scritch, scritch. Comes the sound of the pen rubbing against his head. Three Rivers is about 90 miles from here. Not much of a drive. And we received a bolo this morning about Captain Cornwall. Before I spoke to you, I talked to Miss Chambers, who works at the library. I showed her a photo of Captain Cornwall. Miss Chambers readily identified her. That's interesting. Yep. He lowers his pen and says, I also chatted up a police captain over there in Three Rivers. You can imagine they're quite busy investigating a double homicide. It seems your Captain Cornwall drove all the way from Virginia to a tiny town that hardly anybody has heard of to assault that house, kill 2 well-armed men, and then leave, with another person in tow. Pretty unusual, don't you think? Rosaria says, I can't think of anything more unusual than I've heard of lately. Santiago picks up his pen, starts scratching the other side of his head, just above his left ear, where there's a line of faint brown stubble, looking like a farmer's field of corn after harvest time. Rosaria is trying to wargame what's going to happen here, what she's going to tell her boss, and most of all, how to extricate herself from Victoria without being subject to more interviews, more interrogations. She needs to go out and get working. Another unusual bit of information, Santiago continues, is learning that yesterday afternoon, another army officer was found at the scene, asking questions, going into the house, looking at the crime scene. He pauses with the scritch-scritch. Her name was not available to the Three Rivers police captain, but he's pretty sure she was an army cop from the Criminal Investigation Command. That's your unit, isn't it? Damn. Yes, it is. Finally, Detective Santiago says, Special Agent Vasquez. Still here, sir. Just so you know, I have 2 nephews currently deployed overseas, one in Qatar, the other in Afghanistan. My father did his 30 in the Navy. One of my uncles died in Vietnam. My family has deep love and respect for the military. Thank you, she says. He slowly and carefully puts his notebook and the pen that he's been using as a scratcher back into his pocket. Is it safe to say that you believe Captain Cornwall has left Victoria for parts currently unknown? That isn't exactly 100%, but Rosaria isn't going to correct him. That's a very insightful observation. I see. He rubs his hands together and says, The only crime I see here has been an assault. Rosaria says, I don't intend to press charges. Santiago shakes his head. That's not your choice, Special Agent Vasquez. Assault is a felony, and we don't need your say-so to proceed toward an investigation and an eventual indictment. I see. There's a quiet moment, and Rosaria is wondering what the detective is thinking. But he doesn't keep her in suspense long. If, however, you don't intend to stay here in my city, such that it would be a chore and challenge to contact you for further interviews and questions, then this case might just quietly die away. Do you see what I mean? I certainly do. She rubs at her sore wrists one more time. He stands up and says, So excuse me for being blunt, Special Agent Vasquez. but get the hell out of Victoria and never return. Rosaria tries to hide her relief at Santiago's words. On it, Detective, she says, standing up as well. Fantastic, he says. By the way, thank you for your service.
Chapter 76. The drive along the Gulf of Mexico slowly descends into a monotonous vision of various interstates, interspersed with long stretches of rugged driving along state roads or country lanes that parallel the famed American highway system. I switch from state roads to interstates to avoid toll booths and their surveillance equipment, either closed-circuit cameras or suspicious troopers sitting in idling police cruisers. I'm also being tracked by the evil ones who took my family. My poor, filthy Jeep Wrangler is now bearing license plates from Mississippi, representing the state we're passing through. Earlier, she had on plates from Louisiana, and those were dumped off a concrete bridge spanning a muddy stream in a small town once I crossed the state line. I'm not under any illusion that changing out the plates will save me, but I'm just hoping it will provide me some cover over the next few hours as I head into Florida with my quiet Archie, who still hasn't uttered a word, even after I hustled him out of that library back in Victoria. Part of me appreciates seeing the real America, near the highway, the road joints, shotgun shacks, struggling farms, mobile home parks, the lights of industry and refineries out there on the horizon. But I also realize that while I'm still comfortable time-wise, I'm very uncomfortable knowledge-wise. We're now on a long length of two-lane highway called Pass Road, which is flat and offers tobacco and beer stores, used car lots, Dollar Generals, and other merchant hangers-on a few miles away from the warm promises of the Gulf Coast. I say to Archie, the worst part about digging into Tom's computer files is finding out that he's been spying on me. Me, his goddamn wife and partner. We drive past a few pickup trucks, heading in the other direction, each hauling a trailer carrying a fishing boat that would probably take a year's salary of mine to purchase. I go on. He got a literary agent interested in him last year. The agent was looking for a blockbuster book. Turned down about half a dozen ideas of Tom's. Then Tom hired a hacking firm on the dark web to get access to Army Intelligence Unit activities. And then my name popped up, what I was doing. And somehow that led him to two competing drug cartels in Mexico, both of them looking to significantly expand their territory. I give Archie a sideways glance. Cartel number 1 was offering you as an information source to Tom. Out of the goodness of their dark hearts? Hardly. They were using you as an informational tool to take down cartel number 2, with Tom's knowledge and assistance. All for a blockbuster book. But cartel number 2 apparently found out about it, kidnapped him and Denise, and is using me to bring you to them. I drive on. At some point, I'll need to get this cursed little task force onto a highway. But for God's sake, I say, what is the possible connection between Central Asia and Mexico? What could they possibly have in common? And he turns and gives me a look that expresses intelligence, awareness, knowledge. Oh, damn it! It was right in front of my face all the goddamn time, I yell. And I pull over the Wrangler in a used car lot and fumble through my leather bag.
In his cubicle at Fort Belvoir, Lieutenant Preston Baker is in a good mood. A while ago, he had a nice talk with his mother back home in Washington, and unlike previous calls that ended with sobs and cries of despair, this one ended with a cheerful, "Goodbye, Pres. Love you." Because at long last, there's progress in helping out Dad. The good mood lasts exactly 3 more seconds. His phone rings. He answers, "Baker?" And there's a static-filled call coming in. "Hello?" The familiar woman's voice comes through. "Baker? It's Captain Cornwall." Preston swivels in his chair so no one strolling by can see the shocked look on his face. Captain Cornwall? He stammers. How are you, ma'am? Where are you? Her voice sounds strained and tired. Lieutenant, I need for you to do something for me straight away. Yes, ma'am. I need you to retrieve the investigative file on that prisoner you helped me interrogate at FOB Healy. The one named Muhammad. He tries a joke and fails. They're all called Muhammad. You know how it is. She ignores the attempt at humor. The one who claimed he was a farmer. The one who ended up dead. Ah, sure, ma'am, I remember that one, he says, closing his eyes in frustration. Just a few seconds ago, everything was falling into place. The promised large deposit into his checking account had come through. Mom had gotten a meeting set up for a long-term care facility for Dad, and now this. Good, she says. I need you to get the investigative file and retrieve something for me. It's vitally important. Can you get to the file? The sooner the better, Lieutenant. Preston looks at his desk. The thick file on Mohammed the farmer is sitting right there. Because he knows there's some sort of CID investigation going on with that death, and wanted to be prepared when the interrogator arrived, whoever he or she might be. Carefully, he says, I think I can get to it in a while. What do you need? He thinks he hears a tone of relief in her voice. That's great, Lieutenant, that's great. When we first interrogated him, we found a business card in his belongings. There was an international phone number on the card, that's all. The name of a company as well. Something Holdings. Begins with the letter M, remember? The joke was that maybe it was the guy's bail bondsman. Sure, Captain, I remember that. Good, she says. At the time, the number was checked out and was found to be a fake. But I want you to recheck it, okay? Really dig into it, see what you can find. He reaches over to the thick file folder, opens it up, and like some talisman or sign, right on top is the creased and dirty business card in a plastic envelope. Captain? Yes? Comes the same tired voice, but now impatient. What to say to her? He knows what his instructions are with his anonymous mail caller. Present certain information to him in exchange for financial assistance and tell him if Cornwall contacts him. The deal has been shaky, underhanded, and he is desperately afraid to get caught. But he knows his caller's in the military, having met him one night on base in a darkened Humvee, and is convinced that his actions aren't going to hurt the country. Preston is a trained intelligence officer, and knows this isn't how things are done. But the man convinced him that in certain times, regulations have to be ignored for the greater good. And although Preston has his doubts about Cornwall's guilt in that farmer's death, the man also showed him video evidence on an iPad that in a moment of fear months ago, Cornwall smoked an entire Afghan family with a Hellfire missile against orders. What now? This superior told him not to offer any information to Cornwall if she were to call. But Cornwall... Lots of memories come back from his tour at FOB Healy with the captain. Her sharing candy and snacks from her packages from home. The time he lost all his socks after washing them, and how she shared her socks with him. And twice, when he and she had gone to the shelter, when Taliban units had sent mortar fire into the small base, and how scared he was, oh God! And the captain had just put her arm around him, and that bit of comfort had seen him through that shelling. Lieutenant, what is it? I don't have much time. He takes a deep, reassuring breath. Call me back in 10 minutes, Captain. I'll have what you need, he says. Chapter 77. Her wrists are still sore, but Rosaria Vasquez is holding the steering wheel firmly as she is driving east to Florida. Why Florida? Because Senior Warrant Officer Fred McCarthy told her to go there. She winces, recalling the sharp and cutting words he used as weapons against her, all the way from calling her a useless ROTC officer who went into the army for 3 hots and a cot, up to calling her a stupid coward. A library, he shouted. Got ambushed in a goddamn library? Nothing she could have said would have turned back that anger, so she had taken it in silence, until finally there was a quiet moment. And he said, Gulf Coast of Florida. Get your sorry ass out there as soon as possible. Then what, sir? Then you'll have actionable intelligence and you'll act on it, Vasquez. And when the day is over, I want one of two things in your hand. Cornwall's dog tags, or Cornwall's dog tags and a copy of her toe tag. It finishes today. It finishes now. Got it?" Rosaria nods in memory as she speeds east on Interstate 10, going through a strip that boasts gun shops, dollar stores, gas stations, hairdressing outfits, and everything and anything else a high-speed traveler needs on his or her way to the beaches of paradise. She gently moves the steering wheel, wrists still aching, her eyes swollen with tears, her insides empty, only knowing that yes, when she gets to the Gulf Coast, she will end it. In a quiet wooded area near the Fort Belvoir Country Club, Lieutenant Preston Baker waits, leaning up against the wide trunk of an old oak tree. 30 minutes earlier, he called his contact and followed his directions. There is movement out there, footsteps, and then the senior officer stands on the other side of the tree trunk so he can be heard but not seen. "So she called then?" "Yes," Preston says. "What does she want?" "Information about the prisoner who died in captivity over at FOB Healy." "What kind of information?" Preston tries to focus on the good news he received today about a facility being readied for Dad. His father, who had sweated and worked and thought to design and build the aircraft that had defended this nation for decades, abandoned in his time of need. But Preston is going to take care of him. That's the good news. That will always be the good news. She asked about a business card that was found on the farmer when he was brought in. The official report said the business name and the phone number on the card were fake. "And?" comes the inquiry. "Captain Cornwall wanted me to recheck it." "Did you?" "I did." "Did you confirm to her what the report said, that the phone number and company name were fake?" A blue jay skitters to a halt, not more than 3 meters away. It steps across the ground with proud, jerky moves, and then flies off. What a gorgeous day. The officer repeats. "Did you confirm to her what the report said, that the company number and name were fake?" He takes a sweet breath. "No, I didn't. Captain Cornwall, I don't think you understand what it's like being out there in an FOB. You learn to depend on each other, have each other's backs, look out for each other." The officer on the other side of the tree doesn't say anything. Preston says, "I trust her. I've always trusted her, and she asked me to do something, so I did it." The voice is flat. "Which was what?" "I researched the name and phone number on the card." "What did you find?" "There was a phone number out of Mexico, and the company name Mercador Holdings, an agricultural firm in the States and Mexico." "Anything else?" "I dug a bit into Mercador Holdings. Its majority owner is a bank out of Mexico called First Republic Global Bank." "What did the captain say when you told her that?" "She seemed excited, happy," Preston says. "I'm sure." There's silence, and then the officer says, "You did all right, Lieutenant, no worries." Preston sighs. This sweet day is back on track. "Thanks. Let me ask you one more question." "Sure." The man asks, "You ever hear of something called fragging?" "No, I haven't," he says. "Funny. You're the second person to say that today." And Preston hears movement, feels something metallic pressing against his right temple, and then nothing else.
Chapter 78. I rub at the crusts in the corners of my eyes, take an exit off US 98 in Florida, following the signs pointing to my end destination, beachside. The road is bleached asphalt and the surrounding land is sandy with thin grass and spindly green trees. Archie is sitting next to me, hands folded carefully in his lap, watching the scenery fly by. Since we left Texas some hours ago, he's not said a word to me. But I can't stand the silence, so I talk to him as we get closer to beachside. "I'm a trained Army intelligence officer," I say as we head south. Even though I can't see it, I can smell the nearby Gulf of Mexico. About 90% of civilians think all we intelligence officers do is read lots of reports, stare at maps, make educated guesses, I say. And part of that is correct. We read a lot of reports. We look at maps. We make educated guesses. But we also talk to people, lots of people, like a young engineer from Karachi. Very intelligent, very sweet-looking, who was captured after his suicide belt didn't go off in a marketplace in New Delhi. And who politely lets you know that if he ever gets out, he plans to go to the Hindu Kush and get a belt that's designed better so it works the next time. The road stretches on. How can any place be so damn flat? Or a Russian girl about 10 years old who was sold to perform. You meet her in a sweet cottage with toys, dolls, and games, and while you try to find out which particular oligarch from Moscow had a hand in her sale, said oligarch also being involved in smuggling weapons-grade uranium to North Korea, she keeps on asking why she hurts so much down there. There's an intersection. I slow down and take a left. Beachside, 2 miles, says the sign. That's the people you talk to, she goes on. And then there's the films, the videos. You sometimes see them on the cable channels, heavily edited. But because your job is in intelligence, no matter how terrifying, how horrible, how bloody, you need to watch it again and again, looking for clues. My chest is tightening. I'm saying words my husband Tom has never heard. I saw a video of a captured fighter pilot stuck in a cage, set ablaze in an Iraqi desert. He burned and burned. And I saw his jaw fall to the ground when the muscles and tendons melted. I saw a video of a Filipino family, mom, dad, 5 children, lined up in a jungle on an isolated island, beheaded one at a time. And I had to watch that video dozens of times, freeze framing, trying to see if I could ID the man holding the sword. Dozens of times I saw that family die. Saw the mother try to hide her baby under her blouse. Saw them both killed. Funny, but every time I replayed the video, part of me was hoping, this time maybe they live. I try to clear my throat. Then they never do. And after watching that beheading video a couple of dozen times, then I leave the base, and in 20 minutes I'm home. I hug Denise and kiss Tom and look over Denise's homework and cook dinner for the 3 of us. And an hour after seeing the blood spurt, seeing the father sob, they save him for last, I'm eating mac and cheese in our dining room, trying to keep a happy face on for my girl and my man. Up ahead, I make out the thin line of the Gulf of Mexico and the low buildings of Beachside. My chest is really tight. Then there are the times when you do more than just watch. I say, you have a hand in it by pure accident and happenstance. I find it's getting harder to talk, even though I'm not getting any answers back from my passenger. You're put in a situation, sitting in a comfortable chair, a computer control in your right hand, and because you're at the ultimate pinnacle of human development and technology, you can flip a switch, take a sip of iced tea, and on the other side of the world, a family is incinerated. Just like that. Buildings start to appear. Cute 1- and 2-story structures made of some sort of cement or rock or adobe, the colors pink, blue, and yellow. Tall palm trees sway in the Gulf breeze. I feel like we've driven onto a movie set for some South Pacific paradise. People are strolling on the sidewalks, most wearing bathing suits, and there are cute little shops selling t-shirts, swimwear, towels, inflatable beach toys. So damn peaceful. And I feel so damn out of place. Then the road comes to a wide 4-way boulevard. And as promised and described, there's an oval brick plaza with a fountain and a round bandstand. There's a set of angled parking spots on this side of the plaza, and I drive in and park, out of breath. I check my watch. 30 minutes ahead of schedule. Well done, a sour voice inside of me says. Now let's send this quiet old man to his death and get our family back. I look around the place. Across the wide avenue, there's a hotel building that looks to be under construction, flanked by smaller buildings that could be condos or high-priced shops. There's a high pink stone wall and a black metal gate. A blue Mercedes-Benz convertible comes up to the gate, which has a keypad on a metal post. The driver reaches out, punches the keypad, and the gate slides open. There's a large brass numeral 9 attached to the middle of the gate. To the left of the gate is a smaller entrance for pedestrians, and that gate doesn't have a keypad, for I see some beachgoers head in, carrying coolers and towels in their hands. So pleasant. So peaceful. I take my phone out. Look to Archie. I'm sorry, I say. I have to do this. Then I press the keypad on my cell phone, no doubt leading to this man's death by the end of the day.
Chapter 79. Tom Cornwall looks up from his bunk when the door clicks open, and one of the men who works here comes in, bearing a tray with 2 white plastic-covered dishes, and he reaches over and gently taps Denise's foot. She's snoozing on her side, Tigger up by her chin. "Hey, wake up, hon, dinner's here," he says. Then it all goes wrong. 2 bulkier men come in, and there's a dead look in their eyes. And he sits back in the bed, yells, "Denise, run! Get out of here!" The men are pros. They spray something in each of their faces, and Tom chokes, and Denise screams. And like that horrible day when they were taken from their homes, bags are pulled over their heads. "Come," a voice says, and strong hands grab his upper arms, and he's propelled out of the room.
I dial the number, hoping to God this is the last time I ever have to remember this demonic series of numerals, and the phone is picked up on the first ring. "Yes." "You know who this is," I say. "I'm here at the little park, bandstand and fountain." "So happy to hear from you, Captain Cornwall." "The feeling isn't mutual," I say. "Let's make this quick. I have my weapon in my lap. Anybody approaches me, I will shoot this old man next to me, all right?" He chuckles. "With that deadly attitude, I'm surprised you're not a general in your army." "Give me time," I say. "I need to talk to Tom, and I need to talk to Denise. Otherwise, this man is dead on this plaza." "For real?" "Oh yes, for real," I say. "Besides getting me arrested, I'll also scare a bunch of tourists." He says, "Fear is a useful thing. All right, I will follow your request. Hold on, please." I say, "Not too long." But I'm talking to empty air. I wait, look around. The gate across the way opens up, and a white Cadillac with tinted windows eases out. With the gate open, I see little areas of tended brush and trees, and a wide beach spotted with beach umbrellas and kids playing. My caller comes back. "This will be on speakerphone, just so there's no misunderstanding." I try to speak, but another male voice interrupts me. "Amy?" I put a fist to my mouth, trying so very hard not to sob in relief.
Tom feels lightheaded and woozy, standing on a balcony, sun beating down, holding Denise's hand. The air feels good, but he's also up at a height, maybe 5 or 6 stories. The canvas bags have been pulled off their heads, and the man who's been in charge is standing a few feet away, wearing a light blue and white seersucker suit, a cell phone in his beefy right hand. He says, "This will be on speakerphone, just so there's no misunderstanding." The phone comes over to Tom, and he takes it, hand shaking, and brings it up near his mouth. "Amy?" A slight pause, and her voice comes right out through the speakerphone. "Oh, Tom! Tom, are you okay?" "I'm fine, honest," he says, ignoring the throbbing pain in his burnt arm, still covered with the bandage the Afghan doctor had put on him. "Denise is with me, too. Let me talk to her just for a moment." Tom lowers the phone, and Denise, Her face, as nearly bright as the sun, talks loudly into the phone. "Mommy? Mommy, are you here? Are you here to pick us up?" "That's right, hon. That's right. Get me back to Daddy." Tom brings up the phone. "I'm back." "Good, good," she says, her voice sounding so sweet and wonderful. "Tom, this is very important. What do you see?" "What?" "The scenery," she snaps. "Tell me where you are, what you see." He looks at Pelayo, who offers him a slight nod. He's happy that he can do what Amy asks, but he's still humiliated at being under this man's control. I'm somewhere in Florida, I'm sure. There's a flagpole that's flying the American flag and the Florida flag. I see the beach, the ocean, and on the other side looks like a wide stretch of downtown." "Look at the downtown. What do you see?" He leans over the balcony a bit. "There's a bandstand and a fountain. Hey, there's a black Jeep Wrangler. Is that you?" The phone goes silent. "Amy?"
I lose it for a long minute, just sobbing against my clenched fist. I've made it. My Tom and Denise are nearby, so very, very close. The other man's voice comes back onto the phone. "Satisfied?" "I am," Amy says. "Very well. The time is now 5:30 p.m. Let's make the exchange in exactly 30 minutes. 6 p.m. on the dot. Is that satisfactory to you?" "Why not now?" "Because arrangements must be made," the man says. "You've noticed there's a gate nearby. The access code to the gate is 12321. Easy to recall, am I correct? Come into this little gated community and make a left. About 100 meters down the drive is a store that sells women's beachwear. It's called Yucatan. Go into the store, and there's a package waiting for you." "What kind of package?" "A bathing suit," the man says, laughing. "A very, very skimpy bathing suit. Once you have that on, you will walk with your guest to a small park with 4 concrete benches. Stand by the closest bench. I will be there in exactly 30 minutes. If you're not there, well, let's not consider that, shall we?" My breathing starts to quicken. "All right," I say. 6 p.m., I'll be there. And you'll be there with Tom and Denise. If I don't see Tom and Denise, I will—" I know, you will kill the man that you have," he says. "Aren't you ashamed of saying these threats out loud so we can hear them?" "No," I say. And I disconnect the call.
Chapter 80. Tom's eyes are swollen and filled with tears, and he wipes at them, not caring if his captor is seeing this embarrassing display. Pelayo is smiling widely. "Everything is coming together," he says. "See? Save for some disruption to your life, and an unfortunately burnt arm that is entirely your fault. In just a little while, your family will be reunited." Pelayo reaches over, rubs Denise's head, and Tom feels a sharp bile of anger rise up in him. "Don't touch my girl," he says. Pelayo lifts his hand. "I understand. Come, we need to get ready." Tom takes Denise's hand and starts walking down the balcony to the open sliding door leading back inside. Pelayo says, "Tom, are you all right? You seem to be limping some." "Leg cramp," Tom says. "Lying down all day and night will do that to you." "Oh, I see," Pelayo says, and they are ushered into a wide suite, Tom holding Denise's hand, walking carefully with a limp so the cutting tool hidden in his right sock doesn't fall out. Rosaria Vasquez swears and bursts into tears. This is too much, just way too much. Her last phone call came from her boss 10 minutes ago, sending her to a small town named Beachside, and then there was a thump. The right rear of her rental Buick shuddered to the side, and here she is now with a flat tire and a damn jack that just won't work. Again she moves the thin handle, and again it slips out, skimming her knuckles. She throws the handle into the dirt, turns and slumps back against the car, draws up her knees, and runs her hands through her now very short hair. She'd parked just off US 98, and she hates this stretch of road, hates the state of Florida, and pretty much hates everything. The land is flat, bleached, with trees and brush that look fake. Traffic roars by, and the occasional tractor-trailer truck buffets her car, rocking against her back. Hello? Rosaria wipes at her eyes, stands up. Behind her disabled Buick is a dented and rusting blue Audi sedan, and an older Vietnamese woman is looking at her with concern. Hi, Rosaria says. Thanks for stopping, but I think if I... The woman, wearing baggy black slacks and a floral blouse down to her thick hips, turns and yells back at the parked sedan. The rear door flies open, and 2 young Vietnamese men and a woman bail out and come to her. Another older male is dozing in the front seat. The woman points and yells at the 3 young people, and the 2 men get right to work, slipping the jack handle in, while the young woman, a sister, wrestles the spare tire closer to the car. Hey, The Vietnamese woman shakes her head. We'll be done soon, you see. And by God, that's exactly what happens. The 2 young men manage to get the jack working, get the rear end of the Buick up, while their mother and sister offer advice, criticism, and tips in fast bursts of Vietnamese, and soon enough the flat tire is tossed into the trunk, the car is lowered down, the jack and handle are put away, and after a round of handshakes, the 2 young men and woman get back into the car. Rosaria tries to get to her bag, to offer something to the family, but the woman violently shakes her head. No, she says. We're good now. Honest. Go with God, my sister. Rosaria bows to her. You too. Go with God. And as they leave, horn honking, everyone waving save for the older man still sleeping in the front, Rosaria knows that no matter what happens in the next hour, she will never, ever forget this family and what they did for her.
I check my watch after I leave the Yucatan beachwear store, feeling about as conspicuous as an elephant in a child's wading pool. There was a bathing suit waiting for me, and I'm so self-conscious walking out in public with such a skimpy article of clothing that I'm sure my ears and face are burning. My jiggling butt cheeks are hanging out, my boobs, not impressive but a reasonable size, are oozing out of the sides of the small top. And I hate to look down, seeing my flabby and pale white tummy overhanging the tiny triangle of cloth that is rubbing and tearing at me something fierce. My watch says I have 15 minutes before the exchange. And I know why my nameless tormentor has ordered me to dress this way. He wants to make sure I'm not concealing a weapon. And by God, this jet black suit is so skimpy I don't think I could hide a nail file. Archie is right next to me, the placid yet mournful look still on his face. The dressing rooms back there had doors of wooden slats so I could keep watch on him while I changed, but he's been a very good victim. I only wish I could be a better person. We walk along the side of the wide parking lot, heading to the place where the concrete benches are placed, and I slip my arm into his for a few feet. I stare ahead and say, I'm sorry for what's going to happen, but I have to do this to save my family. I hope you can forgive me. The man's voice quietly says, You should not trust that man. Not at all. And I come to a halt. The voice is from Archie.
Chapter 81. In the basement garage of his new hotel, Pelayo Abud approaches the black GMC Yukon with his associate Casper keeping pace with him. Tom Cornwall is being helped into the rear of the Yukon, sitting next to the young girl who is on the far side, wearing black tights and an oversized Epcot sweatshirt, Tigger doll in her lap. Casper says, The old man and the army captain. They have left the Yucatan. Good, Pelayo says. Benny will be finished in just a few more minutes. Casper holds the rear door open, and as another vehicle starts up in the distance, Pelayo cheerfully climbs in and sits next to Tom.
I grab the old man's wrist and pull him closer to a little island of grass and low brush, drag him in for cover, and I say, You tell me what you know, now. Archie sighs. His name is Pelayo Aboud. He is a killer, a criminal, a very, very bad man who will one day burn in eternity for his sins. My hand is still over Archie's wrist. Go on. That's not really a news flash. He looks out at the warm and wide waters of the Gulf of Mexico, acting almost like a child seeing the ocean for the very first time. Pelayo is the head of a Mexican cartel, the Veracruz. Never heard of it. No matter, Archie says. Like many other cartels, he has a bank under his control, one for which I worked. First Republic Global Bank, N.A., based in Guadalajara. Ah, exactly. You are a very smart woman. Not smart enough, I say. Tom Cornwall, my husband, he's a journalist. He found out about Pelayo and the bank and made arrangements to interview you. True, Archie says, shaking his head. I was kidnapped by the El Baja cartel to be turned over to this Tom, so he would write a book about their rivals, the Veracruz cartel. I was to be El Baja's weapon to publicize the Veracruz's activities, to cripple them. But now, Pelayo has used you to bring me to him, to disarm his enemies. I'm running out of time, and sensing that, Archie adds, one last warning. Do not trust any promises Pelayo has made. They are all false. There will be no exchange. There will be no safety for you or your family. At the right moment for Pelayo, he will kill you all, even your little girl. That had been my thought right from the start when I had picked up that sheet of paper back home in Virginia. But to have it confirmed by this mild-mannered and elder banker before me chills me so hard and fast in this tropic sunshine that I shiver. Why did you keep your mouth shut all this time? What could I say? He says. I could have begged you to have been released, but that never would have happened, would it? You had a mission to save your family, and they can only be saved by my presence. Like any good banker, I knew that someday there would be a final accounting for my sins. I pause for the briefest of moments. How do you know this? A mournful shrug. Pelayo is my son.
Chapter 82. Sitting in the rear of the Yukon with Tom Cornwall and the little girl, Pelayo Aboud allows himself a smile of satisfaction. It's going well, better than expected, and in a very few minutes, this complex and very satisfying operation will come to a close. Driving is one of his men, Paco, whose shoulders are so broad that they nearly rub up against the passenger up front, was the Afghan boy Hamid. The young Afghan lad still seems overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of wealthy Florida, and it's now time to bring him back to earth. Paco, he says, as the bulky man maneuvers around a slow-moving crowd of beachgoers. Jefe, he replies. In Spanish, Pelayo says, tell Hamid that he's doing a wonderful job for me, and that he's going to be rewarded as a true warrior of God, Allah, whatever it is he believes in. Paco stops the Yukon for a moment, talks to Hamid in Pashto. The young Afghan turns and smiles at Pelayo, nodding his thanks. Again in Spanish, Pelayo says, tell Hamid that the man sitting here next to me is married to the American woman who killed his family. Tell Hamid that when I call his name out, he has my permission to kill this man, to avenge the deaths of his family. About halfway through Paco's talking to Hamid, his expression darkens, his eyes narrow, and he utters something and stares the look of utter death and hatred toward Tom Cornwall. Paco says, it is done, boss. Bueno, Pelayo says. He gently pats the upper leg of Tom. No worries, Tom. It will be over soon. Tom says not a word, but his eyes look to be swelling with tears. The girl next to him also remains quiet.
I'm standing at the arranged meeting site near a concrete park bench that is empty, still feeling cold and exposed with the skimpy bathing suit I'm wearing, and with Archie at my right, I say again, "Your son? Pelayo is your son?" Archie says in a quiet voice, "Yes, by blood and birth. The boy is my son. I have disowned him many times, but still he haunts my life. He knows I have always been a threat to him, and now he has come to settle accounts, to make sure I will no longer be able to do him harm." A black Yukon is slowly approaching us. There's no visible sign that this vehicle contains my family or Pelayo, but I can sense something odd and evil about the large black four-wheeler coming my way. Its windows are all tinted, not allowing me to see inside. Thinking as fast as I can, I say, "When the time comes, and if I have my husband and daughter, run for it. I'll try to protect you." He shrugs. "Run where? This complex, it is completely owned by Pelayo, and the people here work for him. Even these tourists, they are either workers of his or family members here on a holiday to repay their work in assisting Pelayo to climb his bloody hill of bodies." I reach over and grab his hand, give it a squeeze. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." The Yukon pulls around so that the passenger's side is facing us. The Yukon is blocking traffic, but I'm sure nobody here is going to complain. "What's your real name?" I ask. He chuckles. "It makes no difference. I like Archie. You may keep on using it as long as you wish." A breeze comes up and I freeze in terror. No, not a wind, not now. Please, God, no wind, make it remain still. I see a rear door on the driver's side open up, and a confident-looking man wearing a seersucker suit with no necktie casually walks around the front of the Yukon, placing himself so the engine block is a shield. Archie whispers, "There he is. Again, don't trust him. Not at all. He has planned this, all of it. And the plan does not include any of you coming out alive." "But we're in a public place," he says. "He's public. Don't forget that. There are no innocents around here. May God help you." "And you too, Archie." I step forward and hold out my arms to show I'm not armed. "I'm here," I call out. "And so is the old man you wanted." Pelayo clasps his hands and smiles. So he is. Well done, Captain Cornwall."
When he passes the driver's side door, Paco, even with his impressive bulk, slips out and is now kneeling beside him by the Yukon's big front tire. Pelayo whispers to Paco, "Are you ready?" Paco is holding an H&K MP5 9mm submachine gun at his side. The weapon looks like a toy in his huge hands. "Yes, Effie." "Good," Pelayo whispers back. "When I'm done talking to the old man and say it is finished, then kill the bitch." "What about the old man?" Pelayo waves again, smiling. "The old man is mine."
Chapter 83. The man called Pelayo is smiling at me, his expression that of a butcher eager to start his day, standing in a wooden chute, ready to kill cow after cow with a bolt to the head. I see his lips moving, but I don't hear anything, which tells me there is someone else nearby, heavily armed. He calls out, "Captain Cornwall, why don't you come closer so I don't have to yell?" I say back, "I like standing in the shade." "Ah, yes," he says, "underneath the palm fronds and branches. Wanting to cover yourself from any snipers, eh? Where are Tom and Denise? He points to the Yukon. Right in here, of course. Show them to me, now. He shrugs. As you wish. He steps back and the near rear passenger window slides down, and I see my Tom in the top of my little girl's head, and the tears just burst out, and I desperately try to keep my cool. All right, let's get this over with, I say. I brought you this old man. Give me my family. Pelayo is back in front of the Yukon. But a few words to the old man, if I may.
Pelayo starts speaking in Spanish to his father, but the old bastard, demanding as always, yells back, English! Speak to me in English! At least this poor woman should know why I am here, and why you have done so much harm to her and her poor family. Seeing the arrogant old man standing in front of him stirs up lots of memories that Pelayo thought had been buried deep and long ago. And he recalls the lecturing, the beatings, and most of all, the disappointing looks on his father's face as Pelayo grew older and learned it wasn't love or family that meant anything in this world, only money and power. He yells, You're here because of what you've done to me, how you've belittled me, and because you are about to betray me. The old man shoots back. Then I'm proud to be here, to face a creature that pretends to be my son. Betray you? I was merely going to tell the world of how you were always a twisted, evil child, and that your despised life has caused death and misery to thousands. You have no right. The army captain, looking ridiculous in a skimpy suit perfect for a woman half her age and weight, is standing close to his father, as if she's trying to reassure him as he yells back at Pelayo. A father always has the right to tell the truth about his son, especially when he has a heart and soul as dark as a rotten gourd, forgotten in the field at harvest time. It is because of you, old man, that I'm like this. He grins back. You have been an adult for many, many years, my son. Are you so weak that you continue to blame me, your mother, and the church for how you turned out? Like your despised cousin, you have the face and body of a human, but the soul of a monster. Enough is enough, Pelayo thinks, and he yells out, It is finished! There. He reaches under his coat to grab his Glock 40 caliber pistol. And then, like a jack-in-the-box, Paco leaps up next to him, submachine gun in hand, and as Pelayo brings the pistol up to shoot the old bastard, there's movement, and the army woman is pointing a pistol at him. How's this possible? Where did she get it? Where was it hidden? He warns Paco, Faster! Faster! She's armed! And then the bitch shoots first.
Chapter 84. As Pelayo and my friend Archie yell at each other, I'm ignoring the words and instead looking for the threat. I'm looking at the Yukon, knowing there has to be at least a second or third gunman back there. There's no way this cartel leader has come to this supposed swap by himself without extra firepower right next to him. Movement. I'm looking for movement. And here it comes. Now it's my time. The wind comes up, and I don't care anymore if the breeze reveals the slit I earlier made in the rear of Archie's suit coat, which gives me easy access to my Sig Sauer pistol concealed in his rear waistband. I grab it, and it's in my hands as Pelayo whirls out with a pistol, and a beefy-looking guy pops up with a cut-down HK MP5. Nice intelligence work there, Amy, says a voice inside me. And I'm presented with two threats. I go to the deadlier one, the man with the submachine gun, and open fire.
Inside the Yukon, Hamid jerks at hearing the familiar sound of gunfire, and he turns in his seat, ready to slaughter the American behind him when the word comes. But the American is bent over, seemingly crying and sobbing, and Hamid shouts, "Shut up, you bawling woman!" He has a pistol on him, but is going to go with the folding knife that is now in his hand. A bullet to the American's head would kill him and be merciful. Hamid is not going to be merciful. The little girl is also crying, and Hamid is ignoring her. Tom Cornwall is bent at the waist, making noises to signal he's crying and afraid of the gunfire. But he's been in a number of tight places before, and the gunfire is now just part of the background noise, like the yells and the curses he also hears. With his hands bound in tape, he is desperately working at his left pant leg, which he manages to drag up, revealing his sock and, God, yes, the cutting tool. He tries to work with the tool, cutting and slicing at the tight tape, and he winces as the blade twice cuts into his own skin, but he keeps on working. The gunfire outside continues. "The bitch was using his father to get to him," Pelayo screams inside, and he opens fire just as Paco aims at the woman, and there's an ugly noise of metal being ripped apart. And then there's a quick, "Oh!" and the side of his face is suddenly soaked, and he spares just the quickest of glances, seeing the pockmarked metal on the Yukon's hood where the woman opened fire in Paco's direction. It looks like 4 or 5 rounds worked their way up the metal until the last bullet took off the top of Paco's head. Pelayo fires off 2 rounds, ducks, and picks up the MP5, rolls to the left, and the woman is advancing, shooting at him, and Pelayo yells out, "Hamid! Hamid! Kill him! Kill him!" Hamid hears the blessed words, and he yells, "American! Sit up! Look at me in the eye!" And yes, the American comes up, but he has something in his hand which whirls toward Hamid, and then his throat is burning, and he tries to yell something again, but his mouth is full of blood, and he falls back.
I have no cover, so I'm doing what's called advancing under fire, and I think I get the gunman with the submachine gun. And then Pelayo is on the ground, firing back at me. But yeah, like most civilians, he's not used to firing in a prone position, and there's whistling noises as rounds roar by me. And I shoot, and I'm aiming at the Yukon's tire and then at Pelayo, for my loved ones are in that vehicle and I'm not about to let it head out. The rear passenger door suddenly pops open, and Tom and Denise tumble out in a confused pile, and I keep on advancing. And another Yukon roars by, front passenger door opening up, and Pelayo runs to it. And I don't care. I let him go. Tom and Denise are right here. And Pelayo can go to the North Pole for all I care, and now I take cover behind the first Yukon, and Tom rolls over, eyes wide, covered with blood. And he's struggling to take a piece of tape off his mouth. And the little girl next to him is in familiar black slacks and an Epcot sweatshirt. And as I reach for her, Tom screams, "That's not Denise! That's not Denise!" The girl rolls over, eyes wide, tape on her mouth as well. A hammer blow hits me so hard I think I've been struck by an RPG round. The girl is not Denise. I run to the front of the disabled Yukon. The second Yukon is still there, door open. Pelayo climbing into the passenger's seat. And there's a confusing scramble, and then he shoves out a little girl who screams, "Mommy!" And then she's pulled back in and the door slams, and the Yukon roars off.
This is the end of CD6. The book continues on CD7.